Please tell me when I'm ready. Fine. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Georges River Council. I also welcome those that are on webcast and the people in the gallery. At the present moment, we're missing one councillor, but we've got more than a quorum, so we'll start. And I declare the meeting open at 7:04 p.m. And could we all please stand for the national anthem?
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this Commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Remain standing so we can listen to prayer led by Pastor Michelle Hobbs from the Revival Life Centre.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this great region of Sydney, of Georges River. Lord, and I pray for your wisdom and your understanding on the council tonight as things are presented to them. And Lord, in your word it says we can ask for wisdom and you'll give it to all without finding fault. So we thank you for that tonight, and we thank you for your peace and your favour on this region. And Lord, I thank you that we get the opportunity to live and work and play and celebrate with families and friends in this area. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Could we remain standing, and I'll do the acknowledgement of country. The council acknowledges the traditional custodian of the land in which this meeting is being held, the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nations, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. I don't think we've got any apologies, so I'll go to the notice of live streaming. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on Council's website. This recording will be made available on Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of the Council. Now, we do have disclosures of interest, and I'll just go through them quickly. Councillor Peter Marnie, CCL 070-22, report of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting on the 8th of August 2022. His reason is a family member was a resident of the facility located at the address. Significant non-pecuniary. Councillor Marnie, CL 072-22, report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 8th of August 2022. is acquainted with one of the non-voting members of the Georges River Local Traffic Advisory Committee, having worked together at the same federal agency. It's a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. Councillor Borg, notice of motion 072-22, review of parking permit costs. Her children attend the same school as one of the speakers on this item in the public forum. It's a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. Councillors, could we have a motion to accept those? Moved by Councillor Borg, seconded by Councillor Smoothly. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no, and I declare the motion carried. And we'll now go to the public participation on items on the agenda. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 submissions that will be made in person, as 4 submissions that will be made remotely, and 1 submission that will be read out by the staff. I'd remind the speakers that speakers only have 3 minutes, a 3-minute time limit, and please understand that we've got 14 people addressing us, so I'll be strictly adhering to that 3 minutes. Speakers are subject to the provisions of Council's Code of Conduct when addressing the meeting. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. The first speaker is Stephen Matthews in person. I notice of motion 69, which is the congratulations to St George City Football Association promotion to NPL 1. Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, councillors, acting general manager, directors and staff. St George City FA is a registered not-for-profit association relying on sponsors and community support to survive. We're a district representative football club operating within the Georges River Council. As you're aware, we've been playing out of Penshurst Park this year, having moved from the former ground at Peakhurst Park Synthetic. We congratulate you, Mayor, both the current councillors and previous councillors and staff on such a premium sporting asset. This state-of-the-art facility is the only internationally accredited facility that is purpose-built for NPL level football. And it's the only field in the area that satisfies the Football New South Wales regulations in that regard. Now, we participate as a boys, junior and youth and men's club in the Football New South Wales competitions, including the top tier men's league that sit just below football's A-League competition. We're established by Football St George in 2016. As a division of Football St George, the New Look Club took over and expanded Football St George's junior under-8 to under-12 representative program that started in 2011. Now, our junior youth and men's pathways are formally acknowledged as an imperative part to achieve the broader objective of promoting football in the St George district. This includes creating a pathway for its 6,000 local-based registered participants within the Georges River municipality. St George City is now one of the most successful, fastest growing clubs in Australia. It earned 3 promotions in its first 4 years to higher levels of football. And due to its rapid success, we decided to transfer the management to a separate board for it to better resource St George City. Competitions were interrupted in 2020 and 2011 as a result of COVID. I can say that we have been successful in being promoted to the top tier of rugby league and now sit just below the A-League. Now, without taking credit away from many people who have contributed, the success of St George City's football programs has been led by the next speaker tonight, our technical director, Atek Gench. He's a former Socceroo with over 30 years coaching in youth football and development programs, including Football Australia, Football New South Wales, and Football St George. He's also been assistant coach for Sydney FC and is a well-known SBS TV football commentator. There are currently 15 players originally from our program that are now playing in A-League clubs at the moment. A great honour for us and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I now call upon Atek Gench.
Honourable Mayor, Councillors, Acting General Manager, Directors and Staff. 2 weekends ago, before a crowd of close to 1,000 people at Penshurst Park, St George City FA won a game against the Western Sydney Wanderers in the Football New South Wales League One men's preliminary finals. Just yesterday, the club won its way through the grand final against another A-League club, the Central Coast Mariners, away from home. Mr Mayor, the role which St George City plays in the Georges River Council is important to the residents and ratepayers of the region. Georges River Council has always had a representative club for cricket, AFL and rugby league, with each having their own dedicated Georges River Council facility. Now, with the success of St George City and the amazing facility created by Georges River Council at Penshurst Park, we finally have the opportunity to take football to the next level in the Georges River region. For season 2023 and beyond, we'll be utilising the Penshurst Park Sporting Hub to a greater degree by offering Bluefit gym and pool memberships to all of our players to further enhance their athletic development. This will provide an advantage above our competing clubs, the hub being at our doorstep and as part of football training and post-match recovery. Gym memberships will be offered to the player parents to further involve the families in the community activity that the Sporting Hub provides. Our goal over the next 5 years is to continue to serve the local community by providing football learning opportunities for the local youth through the St George City Academy, as well as providing the best player pathways for aspiring footballers. Over the next 10 years, we aspire to develop St George City into a powerhouse club in Australian football. Maybe one day, even an A-League representation for the Georges River community will follow, noting a promotion and relegation second division. A-League is to be introduced in 2023 season, making for exciting new times ahead for Australian football. We sincerely thank Council and staff for providing the environment for St George City to succeed in season 2022. We'll use our best endeavours to make all of Council's efforts worthy in providing us the opportunity to proudly represent our Georges River community from Penshurst Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gench. We now will hear from Yushan. Ms. Yushan, and she will address us in person on congratulations to the Museum of Chinese and Australian New South Wales Government commitment to funding. Thank you.
Dear Mayor, dear councillors and committee members, my name is Ye Shen. I'm from the Ghana. I'm here today to support Nancy Liu's motion. The item number is NM074-22. The motion number A, the Council congratulates the Museum of Chinese in Australia, the short form is MOCA, for being awarded 2.28 million grant from the New South Wales Government to refurbish their museum. MOCA is a home for stories. It's a space for contributions and stories for Chinese Australians. So with the funding with the government, New South Wales Government, MOCA will be able to offer a space to all Australians to celebrate their strengths in diversity. So the motion number B, the Council continues to foster a positive working relationship with MOCA during development of Our Journey, Our Story exhibition from the Hurstville Museum and the Art Gallery. I attended this exhibition in person, and the story and the journey of Chinese migrants could go back to 1860 in St. George area, and Chinese culture plays a quite significant role in Hurstville and surrounding areas. As we know, 18.6% of residents are from China. So mission number C, the council continues to develop and support events, programs, and collections within council's library. So I think the exhibition of our journey and our story is a very good start to, carry on this project. Australia is a vibrant country, and we are a multicultural country. We are home to the world's oldest culture, as well as Australians who identify with more than 270 ancestries. So it's very important by promoting respect for diversity, multiculturalism, history is the key point to create a harmonious world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. We'll now go to Gwen Wei. Oh, remotely. Sorry. Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, by all means. Miss.
Hello.
Yes, I can
Guan
hear
Wei.
you. I can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear Guan
Yeah,
Wei?
yeah, by all means. Address the council, please.
Okay, hi everyone. Dear Mr. Mayor, Councillor and community members, I'm Guan Wei. Thanks for this opportunity to speak and support Councillor Nancy Liu's motion on tonight, which is item number NM07422. Congratulations to Museum of Chinese in Australia on New South Wales government commitment to funding. Now let my wife Liu Ping talk on my behalf.
Hello. Guan Wei is a highly recognized contemporary Australian Chinese artist. He had 70 solo exhibitions and more than 300 group exhibitions, both in Australia and China. Besides his art, he also support and involve and participate in many community and culture programs, including George River Council. He has participated in the exhibition, Our Journey, Our Stories exhibition. He painted a new painting for this exhibition. Guan Wei will continually spend his time and knowledge and skills to support the culture and art programs. Thank you very much for your time. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yan Zhou, remotely. On the same item. Good evening.
Good evening. This is Yan Zhao speaking.
Yeah, please address the council.
Sorry, this is the first time I attend this. So you want me to say my full name and
That's all right. You can just address the council. They have your name.
okay. My name's Yan Zhao. I would like to speaking to support motion of Councillor Nancy Liu's motion A and C. Sorry, is that how to do it?
Yeah, that's fine. You're doing well.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So we all know the motion A is the council congratulating Mocha for being awarded a 2.28 million, should be 2.28 million grant from New South Wales government for infrastructure grant to refurbishment the Mocha building. And secondly, endorse council to continue her motion, Nancy Liu's motion, to continue to foster positive working relationship with Mocha during the development of our journey, our stories of exhibition. We actually currently we have a pop-up exhibition called Stories of the Home, and this will be an ongoing exhibition throughout Mocha's lifetime. And at the moment, this one is open to the public and on the ground floor at the Mocha building, 3 days a week from 11 to 4 p.m. until September 2022, because we need to prepare our refurbishment. But even though this will be an ongoing project, then we will be the public can upload and share stories of the home, including the residents in Georges River Council area. Keep uploading the stories and share the stories of the home on Mocha website.
Thank you.
And the number 3 motion from Councillor Nancy Liu is to develop and support event program and collections within council's libraries that highlight diverse migration histories and contemporary stories from the local community, which Mocha will be support local Georges River Local Council if Mocha can be of help. Because at the moment we have 12 experts on the Mocha history panel to for this area. So we have capacity to support Georges River Local Council in this regard.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll now go on to Maria Crowley. It's a written submission regarding the renewal of parking permit costs, and that's notice of motion 72-22, the written submission.
My name is Maria Crowley Sweet, and I am a resident of 12/13-17 English Street, Kogarah. I have lived at this address since 2010. Why is the new residents and visitors parking permit exorbitant? This is well above inflation. On top of rising cost of living and paying council rates, why am I paying extra to park my car in my street? I am hard pressed to find a spot to park my car. I remember when parking permits were free for residents. When the council introduced the permit fee, I was told it was to employ better services such as rangers in the area. This has certainly not happened. I am a resident living on a street that has had building construction of 2 sites over the past 5 years. I am also situated opposite a mental health hospital. Rangers rarely come and fine owners of cars who have parked over the 2-hour limit. For anyone who is interested, they can easily look back at records over the past few years and see the number of complaints I have raised to customer service at Georges River Council regarding this. In addition, I live up the road from the football stadium and near a cafe district and a train station. Again, cars are parked in excess of the 2-hour limit with no law enforcement, making parking for residents impossible. Furthermore, I have to now pay $50 for my elderly parents to visit, and that is if they are lucky to find a parking spot near my block. So I ask, why am I paying more for a parking permit? There is no consideration for the residents of Georges River Council. Yours sincerely, Maria Crowley Sweet.
Thank you for that. I will now go on to Ms. Anna Dimitropoulos, who's going to address us in person. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors.
I'm here to speak for the motion to review parking permit costs for both resident and visitor parking permits for report number NM072-22. As a full rate paying resident of High Street, Cogra since 2015, I fully appreciate the need of council to issue parking permits to residents to accommodate their vehicles and those of their visitors at what should be a nominal fee, only to cover the costs of their production. I understand the need for time parking to prevent train commuters parking all day next to the train station, where there are mostly commercial premises. However, my street does not have these types of buildings and is some distance from the station. That being said, I am aware that time parking is required, as most non-resident parking in my street and adjoining streets occurs, as it is only a short stroll to the hospital and other medical facilities. Up until last year, parking permits cost $10. Last year, they were increased to $12, which represented a 20% increase. However, this year, there is a 250% and 416% increase for resident and visitor passes, respectively. Such an exorbitant increase in price to a select number of residents is fundamentally unjustifiable, especially at a time when the cost of living for local residents has increased at a far greater rate than wages have. I normally apply for a visitor permit. I can't expect my visitors to keep track of the 2-hour limit. I have elderly parents and relatives who also visit, yet most of the time there are no parking spots within 50 to 100 metres of my residence, and occasionally they have to park in another street. I'm not complaining about the lack of available spaces. I was happy to forego the $12 for this, which is a small price to pay, I thought, but $50 is extremely excessive, and all my neighbours agreed that they would not pay it either. I would have also used my visitor permit when tradespeople have attended my premises, as they may also exceed that 2-hour limit. The residents who apply for a resident parking permit have also advised me that the cost increase this year is excessive, and they face the same issues I have mentioned above when trying to park their vehicles, especially if they have young children or groceries to remove from their car. The residents that I have spoken to have also expressed their deep concern that this increase is highly inflated and share my fear that this will not be the last increase. It is incumbent on council to actively support this motion, as it is inequitable and prejudices only a select number of rate-paying residents of Georges River Council.
Thank you, Mr. Robles. We're now going to Ms. Sonia Sarkis to address us remotely on dangerous traffic conditions and inadequate parking around Metaday Primary School. Ms. Sonia Sarkis, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can address the council now. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Sonia Sarkis. My children attend Mater Dei Catholic Primary School in Blakehurst. I'm supporting Councillor Mort's motion today, and I'm speaking tonight about my concerns relating to the dangerous traffic conditions and limited parking surrounding the school and church. My concerns are shared by many parents and members of our community. The school is located at 29 Heath Road, Blakehurst. Mater Dei is surrounded by Terry Street, King George's Road and the Princess Highway, all of which have limited parking, are busy and are dangerous roads. Heath Road comprises of both residential and commercial premises. Some of Mater Dei's neighbours include Dulux, Purnell Brothers and Materialised. Most businesses in this street have their own parking spaces, which are reserved for their customers. However, the customers still use the street parking. There are also various loading zones for use by these businesses, which take up a large portion of the on-street parking. Additionally, the residents also park on the street, leaving limited parking available for parents to use. We also witness on a weekly basis near misses where vehicles reversing out of the driveways, almost hitting parents and children on the footpath as the drivers are not seeing them. There's only one disabled parking spot in the street, which is not adequate for the many disabled people visiting the school and the church. The car line is the safest option to pick up and drop off little children, but is overused with traffic backing up to King George's Road, affecting the traffic flow on the Princess Highway and King George's Road. Parents use car line not only for the safety and convenience, but also because of the lack of parking in the surrounding proximity. Terry Street is a narrow road with limited parking and no adequate crossing or traffic management. Crossing this road with little children, perhaps a pram, is not safe, in particular during peak hours where there is major traffic congestion. Crossing King George's Road is also dangerous. The traffic is always backed up with numerous vehicles blocking the pedestrian walkway, resulting in parents and children, sometimes with prams, weaving in between the cars, trucks and buses. Cars turning left and right from Phillip Street sometimes try to make the green light, failing to see parents, grandparents and children crossing the road. There have been many miraculous near misses here as well. On Princess Highway, there are only a limited number of parking in the afternoon. The parking there is not ideal as the main road is busy and dangerous. Although at 2:30 there is a 40k speed limit, cars still speed and go through or cross the red lights where pedestrians cross. All these issues are further exacerbated when it rains. There is a desperate need for the proper review of these roads and to improve their use for the community's safety. Thank you for your attention tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Sarkis. We'll now go to Ms. Debbie Mackey, who is going to address us in person on, I believe, the same matter. Sorry, it's a different matter. Report on the Georges River Local Traffic Committee Advisory Meeting 2 August 2022. Yeah, Ms. Sarkis?
Hello?
Sorry, Ms. Mackey?
Yes.
Yeah, you can address the council now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors. I would like to speak against the motion of any change to the parking spaces to a 15-minute duration in Mortdale. I live in Cook Street and every day I see traffic issues in Mortdale, which have been exacerbated by the ongoing Mortdale streetscape. During this time, there have been parking bays removed, which has caused major concerns for the community and to the shop owners. The community did not have the opportunity for input nor any consultation. One car space on Morts Road near Wishbone Chicken was turned into a motorbike parking bay to address the situation where motorbikes park in a small available spot. This needs to be reviewed as taking out a premium car parking space solely for motorbikes has clearly not worked, with motorbikes continually parking between parked cars. The Mortdale streetscape upgrade has taken away many parking spots and altered the road conditions, rendering traffic extremely congested and dangerous due to buses not being able to turn safely into or out of Morts Road. Due to the widening of the street footpath, which removed parking spaces, buses no longer have the turning capacity to safely navigate Morts Road unless there's no cars present. Clearly there wasn't any proper traffic study. This situation was highlighted to council staff and Councillor Jemison on Friday the 12th of August at 1 p.m, remembering this is not even peak hour traffic. The situation has caused Morse Road from the top of the station down to Victoria Avenue, IGA's corner, including adjacent side streets, to be extremely dangerous and brings traffic to a standstill. Nor does it take into consideration the new Ellen subway developments that will further add congestion to the Mortdale area. For the people of Mortdale, it is just unfathomable that the master plan would be considered given the existing traffic and infrastructure issues. I would like to thank council representatives that took time out and met with the public. I'm sure they now have a clearer understanding of the situation. Councillors, I ask that you vote against the motion of changing the parking to 15 minutes. Instead of ad hoc remedies for short-term solutions, I ask that you properly and transparently consult with the community to solve the traffic and parking issue as a whole and long-term solution. Let's work together holistically and get it right for all concerned and especially the immediately impacted residents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Koshel, who is going to address us in person, and it's on the same matter.
Thank you, that'd be good.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, councillors and members of council. Firstly, I'm here to talk about the Morts Road precinct, for want of a better word, the traffic or the footpath upgrade and the traffic management that it is supposed to address. My credentials to talk to this are that I am a member of the Australian Institute of Traffic Managers and Planners. I have qualifications at the University of New England in relation to road management, road, sorry, I've lost everything here. Road management, road fatigue and road planning. I look at the bus movements primarily along Morts Road and the traversing of same. The curb blistering that has been installed at the corner of Victoria and Morts and the intersection of Macquarie and Morts does not permit a bus to make a left-hand turn, traverse out of those streets to travel into Morts Road. The turning circles are far too restrictive, and I'm sure they do not comply with the Australian standards. Also, the bus movement traversing north along Morts Road to make a right-hand turn into Victoria blocks the whole of Morts Road when it makes that right-hand turn, because there is insufficient movement for vehicles to travel north on the inside of that vehicle due to the old path out in front of the chemist shop being too restrictive. Therefore, everything comes to a halt. There are four major intersections on that street, and they are Morts Victoria, Morts Martin Place, Morts Cook and Morts Macquarie. They all carry bus routes. It does not provide sufficient movement for traffic to traverse those streets. I also add that the fire brigade are experiencing difficulties in that travelling along that Victoria to turn left into Morts to return to their station. In relation to the 15-minute parking, I'm a little bit confused as to why council would even consider that as a proposal. If I wanted to go to the Mort Street or the Mortdale Shopping Centre, I'm sure that I cannot go to the necessary shops in 15 minutes, return to my vehicle without committing some breach of those time restrictions. Suggest that 30 minutes be a minimum and 1 hour parking be returned to where it is. I'll continue with the parking. The parking in Cook Street, once one turns left out of Morts Road into Cook Street, it is illegally installed as a period parking by your council. It does not comply or meet any of the specifications laid down in the guidelines. It's also been pointed out to me that,
I'm sorry, Mr. Kosher, unfortunately your time is up. Thank you.
oh, but another 3 minutes wouldn't even do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now go to Ms. Catherine Ford in person on the same matter.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors. I'm a member of the Save Mortdale Village Community Group, and firstly I would like to thank council staff who came to Mortdale Village Shopping Centre to discuss the concerns of the community around the Mortdale Streetscape project. Director Andrew Latter and his team and Councillor Jamieson. I appreciate that there has been an attempt to rectify some of the issues raised by the community regarding parking in Mortdale. However, I ask that the 15-minute parking motion be deferred. The reason for this request is that since changes made to Morts Road, 13 parking spots have been removed from Mortdale Village Shopping Centre. An example is the Traffic Committee replacing a prime parking spot with motorbike parking. While this is a good initiative, it is difficult to enforce and has created another set of problems as the motorbike parking bay is not being used as it should be. There are multiple traffic and parking issues that have been exacerbated by the Streetscape project. A session with council and the community to discuss these, similar to the meeting with Andrew Latta and his team, would be of great benefit to both sides. This ties in with the master plan and community feedback requesting a height limit of 4 stories, as the infrastructure does not cope now, let alone with the addition of approximately 1,000 new dwellings. The Ellen subway development is only adding to the existing traffic and parking issues. A traffic report that simultaneously addresses both current and future traffic and parking issues facing Mortdale Village is required, as the existing infrastructure is already at capacity. I ask that the motion be deferred to ensure that the infrastructure complexities in Mortdale Village can be properly addressed as a whole and with community consultation, which is vital, and include issues arising from the Ellen subway development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine Ford. We'll now go to Mr. Jeffrey Cash, who's in person. He is going to address us on CCL 07-22 of the Environment Committee. It's planning proposal and development control plan for 59A Gloucester Road, Hurstville. Thank you.
Councillors, Mayor, on the project of extension to the building in Gloucester Road, we have many thoughts about it being going up to the 4th level, which is far too high. It overshadows the area that we're in and takes away your rights of sunlight and open air. Parking is bad enough now. There's no parking available in either street of a day because people coming to visit in the hospital or the nursing home or whatever they're doing. So if it increases from 30 to 100, we're going to have bigger problems. The other part of it is that there's a commercial kitchen. Having worked in a commercial kitchen for 50 years of my life, I know the noise that goes on in them. And with 100 people feed, it's a lot louder and noisier than what it is for 30. The other point is that the boundaries, it's too close. The overall construction it's on top of each other, and after all, when our project was built, it was an aged care facility approved, so, and now it's carried on after that. So I don't see where we should have to put up with more noise, and while the building was going on, the noise and the dust and that what'll happen in there, I don't think retired people should be put to this extension. Haven't seen what's happened in noise. It's just too much to be expected of us. So I just hope without any more to say that you'll take note of these points.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Appreciate it. We'll now hear remotely Mr. Tom Cook on the same item, which is the Gloucester Road Hurstville item. Mr. Cook, are you there? Sorry, Mr. Cook.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom Cook.
Yeah, by all means, address the council.
All right, thank you. Sorry, am I up now?
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, yeah.
You're ready. If you're ready, you can address the council.
Thank you. Yes, I'm from Nico Planning, and I represent the proponent of the plan proposal, Regis, and endorse the Environment and Planning Committee's recommendation for this planning proposal to proceed to finalisation. We did address the committee on the 8th of August, and our comments are more or less consistent with what was presented then. However, I do make myself available for any specific questions the councillors might have. As discussed at the committee meeting, however, I will reiterate that while this planning proposal seeks an uplift of the building height and the FSR development standards. The primary objective of this planning proposal is to deliver a new residential aged care facility of a similar yield to that existing, whilst using the additional floor space available to provide significant resident amenity improvements. In this respect, the anticipated yield of the new facility would not give rise to any measurable intensification of the site in terms of residents, visitors, or traffic volumes. It is important to note as well that the draft ECP for the plan proposal limits the new facility to 110 beds. This is consistent with the existing approved and licensed bed yield of the existing facility. It is understood that adjoining residents have raised concerns with potential amenity and environmental impacts to their properties. Now, it is important to note that the proposed design has been subject to comprehensive analysis from council, DPE and independent design experts, where it has been concluded that the building envelope proposed can yield an acceptable design outcome which protects the amenity of surrounding residents. This includes compliance with relevant solar access controls. The DCP has also developed site-specific design controls to help guide future development and includes controls to further protect surrounding properties. These matters will be further considered as part of any future development application for the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We'll now go to Mr. Ray Law, who's going to address him in person, and it's the same item, 53A to 59A Gloucester Road, Hurstville. Thank you, Mr. Ray Law.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors. I'm here on behalf of the people living in 24 to 28 Millett Street, which is directly behind the building in question, and we're here to oppose that Georges River Council direction. Our building is a SEP 5 building, and we feel that the building is going to be too high, too close to our boundaries, and has 3 to 4 stories. Our building is 3 stories high, which is slightly lower than the building that we're talking about. We feel that the noise from this building will not give quality of life to our people living in our unit. We would like the kitchen area is about 1 to 2 meters away from the boundary, and the people that live in the back end of the building, of our building, will be suffering from the noise from kitchen utensils, etc., etc. The nursing home is only 2 meters away from our boundary, and many of the staff rest at their backyard, which is only 2 meters away, and persistently our quality of life is reduced significantly. When the bed rate goes up to 100, it's going to create more noise. We have a driveway from Miller Street, which is our street we live in, which they enter to the car park through there. There's a lot of concern about the lack of the sunlight we get, and also when we moved there, well, I've been there for 21 years now. I thought it was going to be a place of harmony and quietness, and it's just now getting in a way of making a lot of noise. And also, if King George's Road's work start, when this is going on, we're going to have stereophonic noise. So I would like to implore the council to reconsider their decision to allow this project to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, that completes the public addresses to the council. Councillor Tegg, you have your light on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an urgency motion. I've provided the wording to the staff. So the motion that I'd like to move as a matter of urgency is that council note the resignation of Councillor Tegg, effective on the 23rd of August, that being tomorrow, and that the acting general manager arrange for council's my replacement to be appointed as per the countback method that we approved previously. So if you're okay with that, I'll speak to it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, by all means. I'm actually accepting that as a matter of urgency. I think it does need a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Symington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak to this just briefly. I appreciate we don't have valedictory speeches in our code of meeting practice, so I'll keep them tight. But Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to very briefly speak to the motion. Obviously, it involves my resignation from council, which is something that I don't do lightly. There've been a number of changes recently in my life which have sort of forced the change. Luckily, I will be replaced, especially with this countback method, by a very capable young woman named Ashvini, who you will all hopefully meet in the near future. Luckily, as a result of the process we put in place, there need not be an expensive or drawn-out process for my replacement. There is literally only one person who can be elected on a countback, and that's Ashvini. Just to briefly reflect, councillors, on my time here on council, I appreciate the time and the camaraderie that I've had here from councillors from across the political spectrum. I would like to thank everyone for their constructive contributions, both in the previous council and this one. And thank everyone for your contribution, and look forward to seeing what you can all contribute in the future. Briefly, I would like to thank some people who've helped me to get where I am today, obviously starting with my family, who've made many sacrifices. There was a young 7-year-old girl who was here this morning, my daughter Zoe, who missed a lot of time with her dad, not just all the Monday nights for these meetings, but the community meetings and the time that her and my wife Sonia were living overseas while I was serving here on council. We all make a lot of sacrifices to do these roles, and you know, there's a little girl who needs to see a bit more of her dad, and so that's certainly part of this decision. I'd also like to thank the Labor Party, who selected me twice to be their representative here on council, and the volunteers who spent a lot of time, effort, and energy to help get me elected and to talk about what electing Labor councillors to council would mean for their community. So I'd like to thank them for their contribution. I'd also like to thank the wonderful staff, the former general manager, the actual general manager, our wonderful directors, and all the way down. Everyone on the council that I've spoken with has been motivated by one thing, and that is about making this community a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. And they do a fantastic job doing just that. So I would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart for the work they've done, both to help me and other councillors do our job and respond to our community, but that they do every day, day in, day out, making this a wonderful part of the world. And I'd also, obviously, before sitting down, like to thank our community, the community that elected me and that elected each of us. The trust that they've placed in me and us to do the work we do here shouldn't be forgotten. This needs to be a place where we stand up for that community, where we stand up and behave with integrity. I won't comment on the goings on in other places, but we are fortunate now to have a council full of people who are here for one purpose, and that is the betterment of our community, regardless of political stripe, Labor, Liberal, Independent. We're all here to do that, and we should all make sure that at the end of the day, that is the one thing that helps us put our heads on our pillows at the end of the night, which is that we know we did everything we could to behave with integrity, to stand up for our community, and that at the end of the day is the only thing that matters. So thank you, Mayor, for this motion. Thank you, councillors, for your indulgence, and all the best of luck with your future endeavours.
Thank you, Councillor Tegg. Councillor Symington, you're actually the second, and it's still a motion, I think. So,
Mr. Mayor, I just like to say that I wish Councillor Tegg well and enjoying time with his family, and thank you for all the service that you've given over nearly 6 years, really, isn't it? Nearly 6 years of council. So thank you very much.
Councillor Henry, yeah.
If you may indulge me just for a moment, Mr. Mayor, I do find it important to get up and acknowledge the great work that Councillor Tegg has done over the last 5 years. And I've got to say that given that we are on opposite sides of the political spectrum, there is a great deal of respect between us. And I think that comes down to the type of person that Councillor Tegg is and has shown over the last 5 years. There is absolutely no doubt that he applies his role as a councillor with a great deal of integrity. and conviction, and he stands up for what he believes in. We may often, on some circumstances disagree with certain things, but at the same time, we can come together in terms of finding out what's best for the community and how we approach that. And I want to thank him for the friendship that he's given me and many councillors around here who have already served a term with him, but also wish him all the very best for his future, and no doubt seeing him in positions far greater in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good luck, Councillor Tegg.
Thank you. Somebody else's? Yeah, Councillor Konjowski, yes.
I just want to congratulate Councillor Tegg on an exemplary 5 years of councillor on Georges River Council, and I think that we'll be worse off with your absence.
Thank you, Councillor Konjowski. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a couple of comments. I must admit, I have had discussions with Councillor Tegg a few days ago, and I was sorry to see him go because I think he's made a huge contributions to this council over the last 6 years. His level-headedness, his professionalism, and he also has been the instigator of many new policies. And I do believe, and I think that the community would be testament to this, and that is that he's represented the community and the ward and the broader community in a manner which has been very creative with his thinking in terms of how the community can benefit from our actions. And yes, you will be a loss to the council and the functioning of the council, especially the clarity of thought that you had and the intellectual ability to put various arguments. Some of us may not have agreed with him in the past, many of us did, but as Councillor Konjowski said, it was a sort of friendship that we had, and we do appreciate, and I think the community appreciates all the time you spent here. I understand that your young child will need you more than ever, and I think you've also got some issues that you must confront. But I do wish you well, and I think the whole council wishes you well. And it'll be a sorry day, but as you say, somebody else will come after it. Hopefully, we can all work together with that person. And thank you for bringing it to our attention and addressing the council. It's not really a motion to be accepted tonight. I might just let it go. You do. I think. Look, I'll put the motion. Yeah. All right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare the motion carried, and thank you. I presume that you're saying your time finishes from tomorrow morning. Stay with us for a little while.
As long as the meeting doesn't go past 12 a.m.
Sorry?
So long as the meeting doesn't go past 12 a.m.
Okay. It won't. We're going to go now to the confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 2nd of August 2002, moved by Councillor Greig, seconded by Councillor Lansbury. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. The ayes have it. Now we'll go to the mayoral minutes. I move a procedural motion that we bring forward the minute on the Public Spaces Legacy Program, variation to the funding. I'll put that as a procedural motion. All those in favour say aye. Seconded. I'll put it. All those favour. Yep. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, it's a procedural motion. Yeah. So the procedural motion is carried, and I now will go to the Public Spaces Legacy Program variation. I will move my motion, which you should have all read. I presume Councillor Symington, you're seconding it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I'll now what I'm going to say to you is that following the concerns raised by the local community and local business, Council resolved in April 2022 to seek a formal variation to the Public Space Legacy Program grant to have the funding allocated to the Palm Court Transformation Project to an alternate and more suitable shovel-ready project which would retain public car parking in the Hurstville Town Centre. I wrote to the Honourable Anthony Roberts, MP, Minister for Planning and Homes, to seek a variation to the funding agreement to remove the Palm Court transformation component and to reallocate the funding to the remaining projects identified in both the Hurstville Heart of the City, City Place Strategy and the Hurstville City Revitalisation Project. On the 29th of July 2022, Council was advised that the variation request had been approved as follows. Vary the funding agreement, Georges River Council, Better Place and Space Project under the attached infrastructure funding deed between the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment and Georges River Council under Clause 22.3. Clause 22.3 provides that any variation to the agreement must be contained in Schedule 6 in writing and signed by both parties effective on the date of signature. We are varying the Schedule 1 and 5 as outlined in Schedule 6, attached and noted below. The capital works to be carried out in accordance with the project plan as updated from time to time as agreed by both parties to reflect agreed changes. The capital works includes removal of Palm Court and replaced with an upgrade to Memorial Square. Memorial Square brackets completion date and milestone 5 change. Project completion to the 30th of the 6th, 2023. Councillors and the community, this is a wonderful outcome for our community and will enable the public domain of Hurstville to be revitalised and the public car parking to be retained to support our local businesses in such difficult times. I also want to express appreciation for the action taken by Minister Roberts, Minister for Planning and Homes, and to thank Councillor Colleen Symington, Councillor Ben Wang, and the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Chris Minns, MP and State Member for Kogarah, for their continued advocacy and support for this major issue. I'm advised that the report CCL 043A-22 on this matter is confidential, as it refers to current contract prices and estimated costs of other elements of the project, which, if published in full, could prejudice council when seeking best value when the proposed works are undertaken. My minute does not discuss these matters. I believe the Public Space Legacy Program is a broad community of broad community interest, and therefore I believe that the community should be able to access my mayoral minute, and therefore this minute does not contain any information that would be considered confidential. The motion is, as moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Simon, that Council acknowledge the local community and local business for their ongoing advocacy that enabled Council to reconsider the Public Space Legacy Funding Agreement and allow for the protection of the car parking at Palm Court and deliver a transformed Memorial Square which will benefit both the local community and the local businesses. B, that Council thank Councillor Colleen Simon, Councillor Ben Wang and the Opposition Leader Mr Chris Minns and State Member for Kogarah for their continued advocacy and support for this issue. The Council writes to the Minister for Planning and Homes, the Honourable Anthony Roberts, to thank him for his support in approving the variation to the Public Space Legacy Program Grant Funding Agreement. The Council having received and considered the Council having received and considered the confidential report CCL 043A-22 on the outcome of the variation request received from the Department of Planning and Environment regarding the Public Space Legacy Grant Funding Agreement, A, notes and accepts the risks outlined in the report regarding the delivery of the Memorial Square and the McMahon Courtyard projects and authorised the acting general manager to sign the revised funding agreements. B, endorse the use of the pre-qualified contracts through the local government procurement panel for the quotation, and the acting general manager approved the preferred supply. C, receives and notes that should the cost of the identified projects exceed the grant funding of $4.75 million, a further report will be submitted to Council with recommendations on the next step. E, that Council acknowledge the fine work of the staff in obtaining the initial funding of $4.7 million and working with the Department of Planning to obtain their approval of this variation. The staff have done an excellent job of getting this across the line with the assistance of those that advocated for it. So, Councillor Symington, did you want to talk as the second?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But before I speak, I just want to say I witnessed something that I've never witnessed in my entire 5 years on council, Nellie. It's that 5 councillors walk away and not, I presume, vote on this. I find that appalling. Luckily, we do have quorum, so we can vote on it for the community of Hurstville Ward. So yes, I'm absolutely delighted with Minister Roberts' response. I'd also like to thank the Minister for agreeing to Council's variation request to the legacy grant funding. I've consistently advocated to keep Palm Court Car Park as it is, so I think it's a great result. I want to thank all the council officers who are involved in preparing the variation request. And I'm glad that the Minister accepted the reasoning and also the alternate project. Palm Court Car Park can continue to serve the local business community, and the customers can use the high turnover parking, which is easily accessible in the heart of Hurstville. Business owners impacted by the devastating effects of COVID pandemic can now breathe a sigh of relief and concentrate on rebuilding their businesses. The grant funding will be used now in Memorial Square if we vote for this tonight in the affirmative, which is a shovel-ready project. That's the most important thing, and it stays in Hurstville where it was supposed to be. I'd also like to thank Chris Menz, the Leader of the Opposition and member for Cogra, for his continued advocacy on this issue and recognising how detrimental a loss of this parking would be on the local shopkeepers. And again, it's just a great result, and I'm glad that the Minister agreed with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. I presume you want to speak for it, Councillor Wang.
Yes,
as
I'm going to be brief. Yeah,
I think I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I just want to support Councillor Symington for his effort, and for yourself, Mayor, as well, for the courage to stand up for the community. So I did my part to listen to the community one by one. So that I think made a big difference. I think in many cases. So we, as the representative of the community, even though we are elected, we should continue to listen to them, not walk away from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Any further discussion on this matter? No? Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. I think we have to, do we have to go around the...
Division, please.
Yeah.
Division.
Division, yeah. Division has been called.
Mr. Mayor, your vote, please.
I'm for it.
Councillor Ball.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Symington.
For.
Councillor Tegg.
For motion.
Councillor Wang.
For the motion.
It's 10 votes for.
I call that unanimous on those that are here. On those that are here, it's unanimous. Okay, thank you. On to another matter, which is I think it's the certification, or is it the gold awards? Okay. Okay. This next mayoral minute is got to do with the Gold Award at the 2022 Australasian Reporting Awards. I will move my motion, and could I have a seconder? Councillor Lansbury. Look, On the 18th of July 2022, council officers attended an awards presentation ceremony for the 2022 Australasian Reporting Awards. For the second year running, council was successful in achieving a gold award for our annual report. The ARA awards are open to all organisations in Australia, New Zealand and countries in the Asia Pacific region. That they prepare an annual report, and these companies, governments, departments and agencies and non-profit organisations include charities. The Gold Award recognises the significant effort by staff in producing an annual report of high quality in both content and design. To receive a Gold Award, the report must be and must achieve overall excellence in annual reporting, provide high quality coverage of all aspects of the ARA criteria, provide full disclosures of key aspects of the core business, address current legislative and regulatory requirements, and be a model for other reports to follow. The motion is, as you see in the report, that council congratulate council officers, in particular Vicky McKinley, Acting Executive Manager of the Office of General Manager, Daniel Parker, Chief Financial Officer, and Rianne Potter, City Image and Brand Officer, for their efforts in achieving a Gold Award for Council's 2020-2021 budget. Must also congratulate and thank the General Manager for his efforts in this regard. And the award for the Council 2020-21 annual report at the 2022 Australasian Report Awards. Councillor Lansbury, did you want to address the issue?
That's fine, Mr Mayor. I support the motion.
Yeah. Is there anyone that wants to speak against the motion? As they're not, I will put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. We now go to certification campaign to lobby for change. Now, I will move my motion, seconded by Councillor Lansbury, and I'll just give you some background. The role of private certifiers, the level of construction activity and the impact on our community has been an issue for many years, and I have been advocating for changes as a councillor, both at the former Cogra Council and here at the Georges River Council. I am supportive of change to the current legislation that is comprehensive and robust to ensure the issues raised by the residents and community are addressed. These include: 1, accountable certification processes; 2, a complaints framework that guarantees action and resolution for concerned residents. Over the last couple of years, we have written to the appropriate ministers many times requesting change to the legislation, but our requests have fallen on deaf ears. In the last quarter, ending 30th of June 2022, private certifiers were responsible for issuing over 90% of all compliant development certificates and construction certificates in the Georges River Council area. They are managing a significant portion of development in our local government area. An area of great concern to our community is the use of private certifiers in the approval of complying development certificates and construction certificates, and the subsequent management of the construction for developments such as dwelling houses, dual occupancies and secondary dwellings. The key issues and complaints we are hearing from the communities are residents do not know a development is occurring next door or in the street until the day the building work starts. Development does not comply with the legislation and the relevant policies, e.g. stormwater and trees. The development site and construction process is not managed properly, with concerns relating to the construction hours. The building does not comply with the approved plans and poor construction practices. The council, in many areas, does not step in to address or cannot step in to address and resolve their complaint. The legislation states, and this is where the problem lies, councillors, the legislation states that when a private certifier is the principal certifying authority for development, they are responsible for conducting inspections and ensuring building and construction complies with the approvals. As the private certifier is the independent regulatory council has no jurisdiction over the site. Council is powerless to intervene on private certified sites unless there is significant threat to human life or safety or significant property damage, or where the certifier has exhausted all options to resolve the issue of non-compliance. Council has a legal obligation to direct resident inquiries to private certifiers to address the issue. The lack of legislative power and action to address the concerns raised by the community on construction activity managed by private sector is enormously frustrating. To commence this campaign, I recommend that we ask our community to share their stories and experience they have had with building sites and construction activity, and construction activity managed by private certifiers. This information will assist us to prepare a case to take to the Premier, Minister for Planning, the local members and the Leader of the Opposition, demanding changes in legislation and the provision of resources for councils to regulate the private certification industry. My motion, which has been seconded by Councillor Lansbury, A, that Council commence a campaign to lobby the New South Wales Government for amendments to the relevant legislation to increase the accountability on development and building sites under the control of the private certifiers through greater industry regulation and enforcement. B, to address this, Council is to undertake the following. First, 1, review the information on our website in relation to construction activity and certification to ensure the information is comprehensive in plain English and clearly outlines the avenues a community member can follow if they have concerns with the site managed by a private certifier. 2, commence a campaign to lobby for greater penalties and regulation of certifiers. 3, request from the Minister the expansion of the penalty notice offence categories and agencies that can issue fines on private certifiers, e.g. Council currently cannot issue fines on certifiers who breach DA conditions requiring the payment of fees or the provision of information prior to issuing a construction certificate. And the last point, request from the Minister for the role of the Office of Building Commissioner be expanded from just residential apartment buildings to include all types of residential accommodation. I've moved that and seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Would you like to say any words to that? Yeah, Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say a few words about this one. As councillors, this was probably the #1 issue that we get contacted by our residents about. Unfortunately, some of the statistics in here, 90% of some of our DAs, etc., are dealt with by private certifiers, is really concerning. And we have quarterly in the Environment and Planning Committee, we have a report that comes to us with those details. And as time goes on and less projects are certified by council officers, they're all dealt with by private certifiers. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't mind who doesn't like it. I think that private certifiers and complying development are both tools of the devil. I think that that takes away a lot of the control from councils to oversee projects in our community. And one of the things that jumps out to me, Mr. Mayor, in your mayoral minute here is a complaints framework that guarantees action and resolution for concerned residents, because that's one of the things that our residents don't have. If you don't have a particularly cooperative private certifier, and unfortunately we don't hear about them, we hear about the ones that are not especially cooperative, you don't really know what's going on. If you contact council, you're generally told that we are not the certifying authority, you need to deal with a private certifier, and that kind of gets handballed from side to side. I think you know, one of the things that infuriates me is private certifiers don't ever seem to really follow through with the requests from concerned neighbours and residents. They don't provide copies. I shouldn't speak for all of them, but in a general sense, they don't often provide copies of the plans. So therefore, the resident doesn't really know what's going on next door to them. As the council is not the copyright holder of the plans, they're not able to provide them directly to the resident to view them. A resident can come into customer service perhaps and just view them, but we all know that it's easier to actually view it in front of, in your own time, not just to have it put in front of you for a few minutes at a time. It's very timely, Mr. Mayor, that this be reviewed. I think we've all moved motions about this over the years. I know I have. There's been inquiry after inquiry into the private certification process, and nothing seems to really change. It was a big step that we had the Office of the Building Commissioner established some time ago, but that's got its own issues at this point in time. With the Commissioner recently resigning, and to expand it to include residential accommodation as well as residential apartments would be a huge step forward. I think the industry needs to be subject to much higher regulation, and I would like to think that if we continue lobbying the government of the day, that we will actually get some progress on this. But in the meantime, this is a wonderful initiative to gather information from our own residents on the website on a dedicated page. So I commend you for the initiative, and I think Councillor Jamieson, this was something that you raised, wasn't it, a few weeks ago, that we need to be more proactive, because at this point in time it's almost like council is unable to act when a private certifier is unresponsive, and the residents are left in a terrible situation. So I wholeheartedly support this initiative, Mr. Mayor. Well done.
Well, Lansbury. Do we have any further discussions? I will accept one more if they want to talk in support of it, or anyone that's going to be talking against it. I'll take one that's, if anyone's talking against it. No. Okay. Councillor Jamieson, go for it.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Mayor and to the Deputy Mayor. And I guess this all started with, for me, what happened with David Bodico when he responded and actually spoke at council. And I hope we go and fiercely make a noise so that we're finally heard and that we can do something about it. It's been far too long, that it's been far too poor a system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. There's no one speaking against, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously, and we'll go to another notice of motion, which is accounting treatment of rural fire services, the Red Fleet assets. And I do have a motion there. I'll move the motion. Someone want to second that? Councillor Lansbury. Thank you. I'm calling on councillors to support the local government campaign on the financial accounting treatment of the rural fire services. And it's got a lot to do with the mobile assets known as the Red Fleet. A long-standing dispute over the accounting treatment of the Red Fleet has come to a head with the Auditor General's 2021 report on local government on 2022, June 2022. The audit report re-emphasises the state government's determination that the RFS assets are the property of councils and must be recorded in council's financial statement, with council required therefore to absorb all depreciation costs. Note that. The Audit Office local government report has reinforced the notion that the RFS mobile and other firefighting assets can somehow be deemed to be council's assets, and applies more pressure on councils and the Office of Local Government to conform with this determination, despite the fact that councils do not have effective management or control of these assets. Councils across the state and local government New South Wales refute this determination. Councils do not have any say in the acquisition, deployment, or disposal of these assets. Comparable assets held by Fire and Rescue New South Wales and the State Emergency Service are not vested anywhere other than with the organisations that purchase, use and maintain and dispose of them. Councils and the local government of New South Wales have also raised concerns that the requirement breaches Australian accounting standards. The state government's own local government accounting code of accounting practice and financial reporting provides for councils to determine whether the record RFS assets on their books as council assets. This position has been confirmed by the Secretary of the Department of Planning and Environment, and in his letter to the Attorney General dated the 7th of June 2022, presented in Appendix 1 on page 47 of the 2021 Local Government Audit Report. Council notes advice from the Local Government New South Wales that many councils are refusing to comply with the Auditor General's instructions. Councils remain firm in 2021, resisting pressures to record RFS assets, with the majority choosing not to record the RFS mobile assets in accordance with the Local Government Accounting Code. This was the same number of councils as in 2020 Local Government New South Wales. This is the same number of councils as in 2020 Local Government New South Wales is encouraging councils to continue resisting pressure from the Audit Office and make their own determinations, with notwithstanding overtures that ongoing non-compliance with the Auditor General's instructions may result in future qualified financial reports. The latest audit report has made further impositions on council by recommending councils undertake a stock take of RFS assets and records the value of council's financial statement. Two, warning that if council does not recognise the assets, it will be found non-compliant and will have a high risk finding report. And three, calling on New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment to intervene where councils do not recognise rural firefighting equipment. The government's blanket determination is not only nonsensical, it is also inconsistent with the treatment of the comparable assets of other emergency services, service agencies such as Fire and Rescue New South Wales and the State Emergency Services. There is no rational reason for maintaining this anomaly. Local Government New South Wales has been advocating this position on council's behalf and has written to the New South Wales Treasurer, the Honourable Matt Keane MP, Minister for Emergency Service, the Honourable Steve Cook MP, Minister for Local Government, and the Honourable Wendy Tuckerman and the Auditor General Margaret Crawford to express the local government sector's strong objection to the New South Wales Government determination applied by the Auditor General that the RFS assets are the property of councils for accounting purposes and amend the Rural Fires Act 1997. The Local Government New South Wales has advised it will continue its advocacy efforts on council's behalf and is asking all affected councils in New South Wales to consider adopting a resolution advising the Audit Office that council will not carry out the RFS stock takes on behalf of the New South Wales Government and will not record RFS assets on council's financial statement. The motion is moved by me and seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Council votes. Yeah, okay, I'm quite happy. Is everyone happy for that to happen? Okay. We'll make one comment to end this, and that is this cannot be classified as anything else as cost shifting. It can't be classified as anything else as the state government trying to improve their bottom line. So you can imagine all those millions of dollars of rural fire trucks being taken off their financial statements, millions of dollars taken off just so they can improve. They can improve their bottom line. Their financial statements all of a sudden look better. They've done a bloody good job as far as they're concerned. And then on top of that, what also is going to happen, councillors, is it's going to put into our bottom line millions of dollars of depreciation. I don't think that any councillor, and I'll say this quite openly, any councillor who wants to protect their community can afford to support this and not advocate against it. It is wrong. It's a cost shifting of the worst type. Nothing else. And on top of that, we're going to end up facing the shortfall, the depreciation. I want that for you to understand that's what it's all about. It's got nothing to do with playing around with figures and where they should go. It's a cost shifting of the worst type. Now, who wanted to talk to this? Councillor O'Meara, I'm happy to hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on, weren't you the second Councillor Lansbury?
I was, Mr. Mayor, but that's fine. I'm happy for Councillor O'Meara to speak.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is an election coming up?
Oh no, this is your party.
This is
your party. Your party's doing it.
I recognise that. I recognise that, Mr. Mayor. I recognise that, Mr. Mayor. But what I would say is that it'd be great if councillors were actually afforded the opportunity to have a briefing on this, because you're asking us to vote for something, and I don't quite understand. Like, you've made some valid points there, Mr. Mayor, and you're extremely emotional about the position that we should be taking. I think you're doing a great task for the shadow ministers, but I think they've been
point of order, Councillor O'Meara. I'm not working for the shadow minister. I'm working for the community.
I didn't say you were. I say you're doing a great job in speaking for the shadow ministers. I know that they have been preoccupied with a number of upper house committee investigations at the moment, but we'll leave that to the side. Mr. Mayor, there was also a point in there about was there a point that was taken off? Oh no, that's right. No, that's why. Yeah. Point 3, Mr. Mayor. Council promotes these messages via its digital and social media channels and via its networks. Why? Like, I don't understand why there's a need to do that. Well, before we even do that, what I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, is it possible to get a briefing on this so that we are better versed with what's actually going on, and so the council staff can actually give us a background as to exactly what's happening, so that way, we can make a decision according to the information that's being provided to us. Right now, you're just asking us to go out there and, first thing tomorrow morning, is I suspect that something will be in the paper about, Georges River Council is fighting this good fight about, assets and all these sort of things, and then, it's a convenient opportunity as well to sort of grab it and go forward and start attacking without being given any information. And I think it's only fair that council staff actually give us a briefing on this, Mr. Mayor. So I ask that you defer this and that councillors be afforded an opportunity to have a briefing from council staff given all the information before we need to vote on it. Otherwise, I can't make a decision according just to this. That seems to be just thought of overnight and just put forward to us.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Lansbury.
I had a question, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay, to the Acting General Manager or perhaps to the Director of Assets or any of the executive who may be able to answer it. This is certainly not a new issue. This cost shifting issue has been on the books for a number of years, and I'm quite sure we have had briefings in the past, whether it's been in relation to our budget briefings or just within a workshop. I mean, I'm very familiar with this issue, but is anybody able to give me a bit of an indication as to how long this has been, and it's been getting progressively worse, but a timeline? This is not new, is it?
Please, O'Meara,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it's not new. and it affects a lot of rural councils who have a lot of red fleet associated with their shires and so on. I might just call on our CFO just to say a few words. She's online, yes. She was instrumental in putting this forward, and I'm sure she'd like to make a few comments about it as well. Are you there, Danielle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me? It's just a bad line at the moment.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear it doesn't impact Georges River. We've been requested to support it. It's a matter that's really impacting the whole sector quite poorly at the moment, and it's showing our support that it is another example of, I guess, not having a say to advocate for this position on councils and making sure that it's fair and it's, I guess, we're not being positioned unfairly. So it's really just throwing our support behind the cause at the moment, and that's where we're at, but it doesn't actually impact our financial position.
Can I ask a further question on that while you're there? You say it doesn't impact on our financial position, but we do have fire trucks here somewhere, don't we?
No, we need to go at this one.
Oh, I see fire trucks down at the hospital.
Rural fire service. This is rural fire service. RFS. Can I just?
No, I think it's still Councillor Lansbury.
Oh, sorry, she finished.
And you, that's fine. Okay. I think Councillor Smith. Sorry, question? Yeah, that's right. Councillor Green.
Yeah. I was just going to say exactly.
Oh, now my mic's on.
There you go. Just playing dances with fun. I was just going to make exactly the point that Ms. Parker made. Firstly, we don't have any of these vehicles, but you said in your very opening paragraph that this is a local government New South Wales campaign. We are a member of local government New South Wales, so therefore we are part of the team, members of that organisation, vis-a-vis, as articulated by the acting general manager, mainly rural councils who have rural fire service trucks in their area and therefore will be impacted by this. Therefore, we need to support them, and that's why I would be supporting this motion, because, as I say, it's something that affects our colleagues. It's a significant issue for the whole sector, of which we are part of the bigger picture, but we're not part of this sector of it, because obviously it doesn't affect us, but we must stick for the team.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I'm sorry, I just, the question was, in my case, was out of line, so I'm quite happy to.
Oh, I just have a question.
Yeah.
I don't feel really comfortable voting on this based on the fact that I don't understand what the inequities are or the inconsistencies are with the accounting treatment. So is there a better explanation as to what these are?
I'm happy to.
No, yeah.
On the basis that I'll ask Ms. Parker to correct me if I get this wrong, but under normal circumstances, councils or any entity wouldn't be required to account for assets it does not control. In fact, normally the reverse is the case. When you don't control the asset, then the person who does have the control of that asset, and under normal accounting standards for local government, that entity would have to take account for the asset and the depreciation. So this asking local government as a sector to take responsibility for assets it has no control over is completely inconsistent with the way in which all other assets are dealt with. And that's the key issue here. They're creating a rule for local government which doesn't follow the accounting standards for local government.
Thank you. Councillor Mead, you're on the line. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, there's a point of clarification. I'm now wondering as to why it wasn't made clearer in your motion that council support the campaign that's undertaken by New South Wales. I can't see that there.
Well, in my address it says I'm calling on councillors to.
That's your address, not the motion, though.
Well, I think we're now talking. What we're talking about now is what we're going to do. Sorry.
It's expressing council's objection.
What we're going to do to support the local government.
Anyway, Mr. Mayor, I think I've made my points clear, but I think it would be better practice to actually express it exactly as it is, that we are supporting what the campaign by local government New South Wales in addressing the financial inconsistencies that are going on with the Rural Fire Service and their assets. But I'm still of that point that especially for the new councillors around the Horseshoe that are not familiar with what's going on, some of us may have been advised in the last term of local government, but none of the new councillors have been. So I wonder how they would be even acutely aware of what's going on and how this actually affects our bottom line. Going by Ms. Parker's comments earlier, that this doesn't actually affect our local government council. So it comes back to your point earlier, Mr. Mayor, that this is for our community. Well, hang on a second. This is a campaign by the local government New South Wales, and making that clearer is, I think, important. But better still, the practice should be that we should have a briefing on this so that every single councillor is familiar with what's going on, so that you can possibly put this up in the future again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. I think it's pretty clear what actions I'm asking the councillors to take. Well, I'm pretty clear as to what actions we're asking the council to take and the office to take. And it's obvious to me that what we're trying to do is support the Rural Fire Service and the Local Government Association. So at this stage,
Can I just
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can I just say, to address Councillor O'Meara's situation, if you just make a slight change to point 1 that would read that council, in support of the local government New South Wales campaign, writes to the local state members, etc., and that addresses the whole.
Thank you. I'm happy to accept that amendment.
Yeah.
Sorry? I'm happy to accept the amendment. There's nothing peculiar about that. Do you accept that amendment, Councillor Lansbury? Good. I think, Councillor Green. Yeah, Councillor Smurley.
Just a question about which RFS assets will this be affecting in the LGA?
Sorry, what was that?
Which RFS assets will this be affecting?
Well, I think it says it in the report. It's their RFS mobile assets. That's and I think all their other infrastructure.
In the LGA.
Service RFL. Calling on the New South Wales Government, Part B, to take immediate action to permanently clear up the inequities and inconsistencies around accounting treatment of the Rural Fire Service assets by acknowledging that the Rural Fire, etc. Fighting equipment is vested under the control of the.
Do we have any assets in the LGA? So if we don't, well, what's the point of this motion?
Supporting the office.
Local government New South Wales.
We're supporting the local.
Seems like virtue signaling.
We're supporting the local and our friends in the Rural Fire Service. Councillor Nani, yes.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's only speak in support because it isn't unusual in times of bushfire around Sydney that RFS trucks are called in from other areas to support the local firefighting efforts. So I think it's important that we back this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Nani. Is there any further discussion on that? Councillor, are you asking a question? Because you've had your time in discussion.
No, I'd like to make an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, fair enough.
That a brief can be provided to councillors regarding the assets for the giving a clear indication to new councillors and returning councillors on how this affects our local government area and more broadly councils across New South Wales for a future workshop.
That's not accepted by me, Councillor.
Why?
Well, with all due respect, Councillor, it's not accepted by me. That's where I stand.
Is it a lawful motion?
It's not accepted by me as an amendment to the motion. Councillor Lansbury, do you accept that? You can't accept it anyway because I'm not accepting it.
But you didn't explain.
You can move it, Councillor O'Meara. You can move it if you like.
I know, but now you're telling him what to do.
Councillor O'Meara, would you, if you'd like to put your motion as
what? No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Well, that's okay.
Anyway,
I'll leave it at
so you
that.
don't
The
accept
councillor
it.
admit you can, if you like,
I'm
move
only
an
just
amendment.
asked.
Move an amendment.
That's what the amendment is.
Okay, you haven't got a
But
second.
we have a future briefing so the council staff can provide
Okay,
councillors.
you're moving an amendment. I haven't. Now, do we have a seconder?
So that's point 6, I understand.
I'll second that.
That's point
No,
6.
it's replacing the motion.
Okay. Look, you've had enough discussion on this. I'll put it.
Yeah, man. Already. Ask for a second. I'm second.
Yeah, you seconded.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk to it?
No, I think we've had enough discussion, Mr. Mayor. It's just merely about giving
I'll
councillors,
put it.
councillors an opportunity to get well versed in this space so that they can make an informed decision on this motion. Thank you.
Now, I am going to put the amendment. All those in favour say aye, or we're going to have to go around the table. We'll go around the table. So, yeah, we're just waiting for. We're actually going around the table. Yeah, we're voting on the amendment.
We're just making sure the amendment's right.
So long as it's clear surrounding this topic, Mr. Mayor, so that councillors, that it be deferred to a councillor briefing / workshop in order for councillors to make an informed decision on the effects of the asset. Please, anyone can help me here with the name of the motion. Thank you, Councillor Hall. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, perfect.
All right. Well, I think the general manager would like to say a few words before you vote on this. Thank you.
Councillors, again, I'll just make it clear that this does not affect Georges River Council. We are advocating for the state of New South Wales. There are a lot of councils that it does affect. There are a lot of councils that are finding it very difficult to be able to put a set of statements together because they are running the risk of being qualified. We have general managers within the state who rely on their performance reviews where they don't have qualified statements. So to have qualified statements can put the assessment of the general managers in question, which I think is also wrong. So again, that is what it is all about. It's about advocating across the state of New South Wales to make sure that we get this right and we don't have assets on our balance sheet that we have no care and control over.
Councillor Hall, yes.
I just have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the acting general manager. Could a potential impact on Georges River Council of this motion, of not supporting this motion, be that a precedent is set that this accounting treatment could apply to Georges River Council and other accounting treatments for other assets into the future? Is that a potential impact that could apply to Georges River in the future?
That's a difficult one to answer. Look, quite possible, but I wouldn't like to commit one way or the other. At the moment, this is what is before us. It is not right, and I feel that again that we need to support our country councils and our outer city councils as well. There are a number of metropolitan councils that have rural fire services and so on, and they'd certainly be affected by this current practice.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't support this amendment because it's not fair and it's not equitable to not support this motion. It sends a message that we are tone deaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry. Okay. Now, councillors, I'll put the amendment and we'll go around the table. If you could, Ms McKinley.
Mr Mayor, your vote.
Against.
Councillor Borg,
Against the amendment.
Councillor Elmere,
For.
Councillor Green,
Against.
Councillor Jamieson,
Against.
Councillor Kanjarski,
For the amendment.
Councillor Lansbury,
Against.
Councillor Lou,
For.
Councillor Marnie,
Against?
Councillor Mort,
Against.
Councillor Smerdley,
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
For.
Councillor Symington, Councillor Tegg, Councillor Wang.
Against.
Sorry, my apologies. I'd like to rescind my vote. I'm against the motion.
Against the amendment. 10 votes. 10 votes against, 5 votes for.
I declare the motion lost, and we'll go back to the original motion, which is as indicated up there, and I'll put it this time without any further discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance for my right to reply, but anyway, look, guys, the motion's lost in terms of deferring it for a councillor briefing or workshop. But I think with the questions that were posed, it was pretty clear that some people would have benefited from a workshop or a briefing on this.
Well,
Notwithstanding the comments made by the acting general manager that we need to do this in good faith for other councils, but I still think it's bad practice adopting this without even having a briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere. We'll now go back to the original motion. I will put it. I don't know if we need to go now. I'll put it and see what happens. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. We'll go around.
Your vote, Mr Mayor.
For.
Councillor Borg.
For.
Councillor Elmere.
Against.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Jamieson. For. Councillor Kanjarski.
I'll support our friends.
Councillor Lansbury.
Yes.
For.
Councillor Lou.
Against.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Smerdley.
Against.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
Against.
Councillor Symington.
For.
Councillor Tegg.
After careful consideration, I am for the motion.
Councillor Wang.
For the motion.
It's 11 votes for, 4 votes against.
Sorry, what was that?
11 votes for, 4 votes against.
I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Now we're going on to committee reports, and we'll start off with, is it the Environment Committee? Yeah, the Environment Planning Committee meeting held on the 8th of August 2022. Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move items ENV 022, 24 and 25, but I would like to pull out item ENV 023-22.
Okay, thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. Okay, now we'll go, and I declare the motion carried. And I'll go to ENV.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we have a seconder.
Oh, okay. Seconded by Councillor Lees-Ball. Again, all those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. And we'll go to that, the one that was pulled out, which is ENV 023-22. Thank you. Did we?
I will move it, Mr. Mayor, if I can get a seconder, and I think Councillor Wang wants to speak to it.
Thank you. Councillor Wang.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've been working on this planning proposal for quite a few weeks, especially with the residents of the 24 Minute Street. some of them are here today. Thanks for them. I've been around the street quite a few times, and only yesterday, so I organized a 2-hour meeting with some of the residents, the staff manager, who is also here today, and I got the help also from a friend, a town planner friend, so who took this expertise to help me and help the residents. So this Glass Street and this Miller Street are generally very quiet street and very enjoyable. And what this proposed plan 6 is to alter the DCP to increase the height and the FSR for the nursing home, which is already very imposing. And the next building, which is 24 Miller Street, from the east and the south side. So the concerns from the residents are really understandable, and they are justified to raise their concerns and objection to this plan. However, so this architecture design of this plan, they're not for untrained eyes. So, so I'm relatively familiar with this designs and plans, but I still need some help from the town planner to fully understand what it means and the implications. And so after that, after my study, so I would like to, to thank the council staff who has been working on this for several years, and for good quality work, and especially the director, Mario, for their providing in the last week provided a brief fact sheet and even translate into Chinese, because lots of rest there were, they don't understand English. So I think the most difficult part of this proposed plan is not the plan itself, but it's how to communicate it to our community and explain the real impact. And I have done some of the work, including yesterday's meeting, and I plan to have another meeting in the coming weeks. So if you could indulge me for just for a moment, so I can go through, highlight some of the concerns raised by residents, including Mr. Cash and Mr. Law just now. So the main concern is the loss of sunlight and other amenities due to the close proximity of the two buildings, and increased, footprint and intensity of use. So I received the sort of conflicting information about the distance between the two buildings at the last committee meeting. So I voted against that. And since then, I have double-checked, triple-checked the plan. And now, so I'm very comfortable to say, so the existing building will be fully demolished, and the new building would have a further setback and 6 meters on the east side, and the 3.4 meters setback to allow enough sunshine to come through. In addition to that, the fourth level will have further 6 meters setback, so that will also allow enough, sunlight to come through. So I've gone through the shadow diagram and all that. So, and I trust the report, at least on the face value. There will be no overshadowing, extra overshadowing. And on the south side, probably they may be even better off because of the further setback and the further setback at a higher level of the floor. Yeah. So the other concern is about the noise and the smell from the kitchen area and the laundry. So Mr. Cash mentioned before. So I carefully studied the plan. The kitchen was moved fully away from the Minute Street. So it's set to the Glass Street. So it's fully. You will be better off in terms of the kitchen's noise and the smell. So, and Yeah, so that's the main concern is about the distance and the setback. I think they don't. We still have need more work to do, but in general, so I think this plan is carefully designed after many years. But down the track, also this is also a planning phase, a concept design. Down the track there will be DA process, and if the building is demolished and rebuilt, it will take like a year or even more or longer for this resident to suffer from the noise and the construction work. So and then I just down the tracks I will also urge the council to consider the well-being of the amenities for the elderly people, the vulnerable people. So I just undertake to help these residents more. But in conclusion, so now I'm supportive of this plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Lansbury, somebody else's.
Mr. Mayor, just with your indulgence, if I could just direct a question to the Director of Planning. Ms. Bishop, we had one of the speakers earlier tonight raised a concern that it would be increased from 30 beds to 100. My understanding is that there's no increase in the number of beds. It's just a reconfiguration rather than perhaps there's 30 rooms with a number of beds in them now, but there's no actual increase in the intensity of the use, is there?
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lansbury, yes, you are correct. It is not changing the density, it is moving everyone from shared rooms into individual rooms with 100 beds.
Well, we need a motion. No, well, we have to move it.
I've actually already removed. I've already moved it, but I'll move it again. And
Yeah.
I think
All right.
Councillor Wang, you were seconding that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we're going to the report of the Finance and Governance Committee meeting held on the 8th of August 2022. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee recommendations for items FIN 035-22 to FIN 040-22 be adopted by Council.
35 and 40. Yes, it's Councillor Green. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we're going to the report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee. Councillor Symington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that items ASS 022-22 and ASS 023-22 be adopted.
Can I, yeah, I think, are you?
If you want to pull out.
I'm requesting for an amendment. Is that up?
The amendment, or you're pulling out item out?
Already up. Yeah. So I'll just read it, that the Assets and Infrastructure Committee recommendation for items AS 022-22 and ASS 023-22 as detailed below be adopted by Council with the exception of TAC 097-22 Morts Road, Mortdale, proposed P15 minute zone, and that this item be deferred to a future Georges River Local Traffic Advisory Committee to be considered holistically with a review of the recently implemented motorcycle parking only parking on the northern side of Morts Road and broader traffic and parking study of the affected area.
Yeah. Well, you've moved, Councillor Symington, you've actually moved the whole report. And Councillor Jamieson has actually made an amendment. So we'll have to,
That time.
yeah, you'll have to put the amendment.
The amendment. The amendment.
Oh, all right. So you've accepted the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And, okay, so I'll put it.
I think
So I'll put it, because unless you want to just talk to it, Councillor Jamieson, I'm happy to put the whole thing. Yeah.
So I'll just to give a background. So I have to thank the director, Andrew Ladder, and his team. So what's been happening is since we've had the Mortdale streetscape adjustments, I've had a lot of issues and complaints. So the staff went down there and a lot of the community, few community people came down and just discussed all their issues. So, and I really appreciate the graciousness of the director, because we had to really make it clear that this isn't the Mortdale master plan, and it kept going to those sort of issues. And I guess what the community felt is that it's not addressing their concerns. So it's not necessarily that this idea may not be a good idea. It's requesting that we look at it holistically. There's a lot of issues that were discussed, and to sort of look at it holistically, it's because there are quite a few issues. They've got really bad congestion and traffic, and we were there and we saw these issues. And the simple thing of taking a few car spots and bays actually really made an impact on the community. And I guess they want to feel involved because it is issues that does involve them. So, and I appreciate that we went down, we did have a quasi consultation, and it was greatly appreciated. These issues, as we've heard, came up. So I'm just asking that we just defer it and try to get a holistic approach to it.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
Yes, Councillor. Sorry.
Councillor Justin, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, thanks for pulling that item out. But I just wanted to correct Mr. Cook. Is he still here?
No,
I think he's left. He suggested that things are not within regulations in his speech earlier tonight. And I can assure him that all traffic changes, including turning circles, are within RMS guidelines, as RMS consulted prior to making any of the changes. And he also asked who would put a 15-minute parking space at Morse Road in Mortdale, and I can tell him that the 15-minute space was requested by the businesses there in Mortdale.
Thank you, Councillor Konjowski. That was a clarification. Councillor Symington.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to ask.
Oh, sorry.
Just wanted to ask a question, and because
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Mortdale, and like Councillor Jamieson speak to a lot of the businesses, and the concern with the 15 minutes, with the motorcycle spot is taking up, and one of the suggestions was, well, you could actually move that forward into the taxi zone because there are currently 4 parking spaces for taxis and probably only needs 3, and I'm not here to make that decision. That's just what people have suggested. My concern is happy to support the holistic and all that. That's unfortunately it's been taken away from where I was reading, but anyway, what I was going to say though, I'm concerned it says, and a broader traffic and parking study of the affected area, which could take months. And my concern for the businesses would be the need for the motorbike spot, the need for turnover of car parks, and the need for this to be sooner rather than later. Councillors would remember that prior to 2012, I think it was, there was no parking at the rear of at Mortdale, and council made the decision, quite a fortuitous one, I think, in terms of future planning, where they built that car park off the lane on Cook Street, and that's regularly now filled with shoppers. So there's obviously a lot of traffic in and around Mortdale, there's no doubt. But as I say, if we can just make this decision, I'm just concerned that that last clause, failed English, whether that's going to impede the process, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Jamieson, yes.
No, I'm next. I actually, Councillor Lou's indicated that she wants to speak on ASS 022-22. So can I amend this and take that out so it can be dealt with separately? Can I amend this motion?
Yeah.
Do you agree? Right.
Councillor Jamison, yes.
So what was the question? Oh, okay, that's right. So I guess maybe it should be a bit clearer, but we defer the motion that carries, where is it? Sorry, motorbike and the 15-minute parking. I think that could be addressed pretty easily at the next council meeting, but also, yeah, and then I look at the traffic study as well. Yes.
So that's why I'm saying we don't need that because this will slow down. Because we're already doing it.
Well, do we need to put an A and a B? Does it make it easier if we have just part A and part B or something? It's just that saying that we want to have the traffic party and make it, you know.
Okay. Councillor Symington, you wanted to amend this.
Take the ASS 0-22 out of this motion because Councillor Liu wants to speak to that separately.
Okay, well, you're amending it. You have the seconder accepted. It's accepted.
Yes.
It's amended. Councillor Liu. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the committee. Oh, not yet. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, but
yeah. They're confusing. Yeah. Well, is there any further? Are there any further modifications that Christina's to Councillor Jamison's amendment?
I was just trying
to. There's been a bit of discussion
what
here
the motion
as
before
to
the chair is. That's all.
what can happen, what can't happen. I'm happy to hear further amendments. Otherwise, we just let it go.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering what the motion before the chair is. That's
the motion for the chair at the present moment is it's been moved by Councillor Symington. This is a little bit confusing, I understand. It's been moved by Councillor Symington, seconded by Councillor Jamison with an amendment which includes what she wants to put up there. Councillor Green has said, well, we don't need the broader, what do you call it, the broader traffic study. Councillor Symington is saying that we'd like to amend it so that Councillor Luke can talk to the, well, it seems to.
I want to take the dog leashes out of there, so it can be dealt with separately. That's right.
We've done that. We've done that. So that's going to be the topic of a discussion soon. But is there any further amendments to Councillor Jamison's amendment?
So, Councillor Jamison agreed with Councillor Green to do something to that motion that I don't think has been done.
No, it hasn't
so
been.
That's what I'm asking. What is the motion before the chair? What has Councillor Jamison agreed to? What text has been removed from that such that we can all understand where we're at? So it's my question to you, because I can't ask Councillor Green exactly what to clarify. But as far as I can tell, that hasn't changed, but there was an agreement that it would.
That hasn't changed. No one's made any modifications to that. And I'm at the stage now, if no one makes any modification to that, we'll then go to Councillor.
Can I just ask a quick question of Councillor Jamison in terms of modification? Could we just turn, rather than going your A and B, no, nothing big there, make it on the northern side of Morts Road, take and put instead of recognising that a broader traffic and parking study of the affected area is being undertaken. Okay?
I'll just make sure. All right. So are you happy with that modification? Okay, the modification stands. Did you want to clarify that modification? Yeah, you're happy. That someone can give me the. Do we have? What have we got there? Defer to. Is that how you see it, Councillor Green and Councillor Jamison? Are you happy with that? All right. Well, I'll put it at this stage because we're going around in circles. I'll put it at this stage. In order in favour of that, which is Councillor Jamison, which is Councillor Symington, moved and then seconded by Councillor Jamison with an amendment. Are we all happy with that? And I put it. All those in favour say aye. Thank you. All those against say no. Great. Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Now we'll go back to the dogs. We'll go back to the dog matter. because Councillor Symington has moved for it to be amended and to come out. Now we've got
Someone
it.
needs to move the item.
Someone has to move the item. Are you moving it, Councillor Lou? Are you moving the thing on dogs?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yourself, sorry, Councillor Symington is moving it. Councillor Lou is seconding it. Right? Okay. Now we've got it. Yeah. Let's go a bit further with this.
Okay.
Would you like to talk to it, Councillor?
Yes, that's
Thank
right. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the purpose for taking out this one is not, I just try to encourage the councillor, we are going to adopt it because firstly, I want to thank you, the staff team, to work for a couple of months to put the proposal in front of us. And I think it's a good thing for the community, especially for that part of the community. I think that they're going to have their own space for the dog owners and for that are part of the community as well. So I know, Mr. Mayor, you might have unpleasant experience before with the dogs, but I'm pretty sure this time our staff will make sure everything been well fenced. I went to the Hurstville Park one. It already very well fenced, and the only thing they are going to take part the existing I think the park facilities, and the other one is going to be on trial. I'm pretty sure they are going to put a very safe plan for the community and also for the safe dog owners as well. So this time, I think Mr. Mayor will happy with that, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say a few words too.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's good that money is not being put into a playground at the end of its use by date, so we can put those resources elsewhere. And in relation to the trial of the Merv Lynch Reserve, it heartens me that there's a separation between the playground and the off-leash dog area. I just think it's good that that separation is there, because sometimes people are a little bit hesitant with little children. But I look forward to seeing the results of the trial and what the public has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carries. Now we'll go to the report of the Community and Culture for the meeting 8th of August 2008. Councillor Lou.
I would like to move it. Someone is going to second it.
Seconded by Councillor Tegg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Thank you. I declare it carried. Applications pursuant to Council Award Discretionary Fund Policy, August 2022.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Borg. Seconded. Councillor, oh, there you are. Councillor Green. Thank you. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Reports on outstanding council resolutions for the period up to and including 30th of June 2022.
I'll also move the recommendation that the report be received and noted.
Council. Thank you, Councillor Borg. Seconder. Councillor Lansbury. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we've got the public exhibition of the Council's Draft Code of Meeting Practice 2022. Councillor Ball.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move this motion with an amendment which has been provided to the staff, and it is up on the screen there. Perhaps we just give councillors a minute to read through that, or I'm happy to.
That'd be wise. There are a few amendments there. Councillors, could you please look at them? Give you a couple of minutes to look at that, because I think it needs a bit of study. Councillor Lansbury, you're seconding it. Thank you. The amendment. Well, did everyone receive this amendment? No comment. Has any, we go the other way. Has anyone not received this amendment? Okay, so you've all received it. Sorry? I didn't hear you, Councillor. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Borg, would you like to talk to it? With the second is Councillor Lansbury.
No, I'm happy to reserve my right, Mr. Mayor. I think
Okay.
that the motion speaks.
Well, is there anyone that wants to speak against it? Councillor Tech, yes.
Mr. Mayor, in particular, I would like to speak against the striking out of clause 5, as it was originally. Oh, certainly to seek to reinsert what was previously clause 5, in addition to what is being added there in the new clause 5. Councillors, we are currently at 9:23. The meeting's been going for 2 hours and 23 minutes, and a number of items that members of the public came here to speak about haven't been addressed. The public galleries, while full at 7 o'clock, currently have two very wonderful members of the public who've stuck around here to watch us debate these issues. We should be encouraging members of the public to engage with the council. We should rejoice that there were 14 people who chose to spend part of their Monday night turning up and getting involved in council business. We should make it as easy as possible that those people can see what we're doing, that we're as open and transparent as possible. So when someone takes the effort to engage with council, come here and speak on a motion and engage with what it is we're trying to do here, we should reward that behaviour by showing them what we're going to do about it. The reason that that was put in place, and I'll admit that was a motion that I put up to council, and it's been a motion that I've been moving every council meeting since in advance of this amendment, was so that when someone comes here and says something to council, the first item of business, once we've got the procedural motions out of the way, is to get to that item. So that when they come here and talk to us about what we're doing about their dog park, or that building development, or that issue around the corner, or that item on our agenda, we say, thank you for coming down here and spending your Monday night with us. Let's get to that first. Let's talk about the issues you want to talk about so that you can see the resolution. You can see what we're debating. You can see what your councillors have to say and how they're going to vote on the issue that you care about. Now, with all due respect to councillors, there are a huge number of things that we have to do here that our members, the members of our community, are happy are happening, but could not care less about. So if you're going to come out here on a Monday night, the least we can do is put those things off until after those issues that you care about are being dealt with. That's all we're seeking to do here to change this, to keep this item in here, is simply to prioritise those issues that our members of the public have told us that they care about, have spent their Monday night coming and speaking in public to tell us about. And it's unfair. Some of the reason that the original reason that this motion was moved was because a gentleman came down here and spoke to us about an issue that mattered to him. And that issue was the last item on a notice of motion on the agenda. Now that gentleman sat out there until 11:23 at night to have someone stand up and say, I move the motion standing in my name. The seconder waved their right, and everyone vote for it. The motion went through completely unanimously. Everyone was always in favour of it, but that man didn't know that. That man didn't know that he was going to have to spend the entire of his Monday night listening to us talk about every other issue under the sun, none of which were necessarily of his concern, until 11:23 at night, when that gentleman found out that we all agreed with it, every single one of us. Now, we could have done that at 7:45, and that fella could have gone home and had a nice dinner and spent some time with his family or watching Game of Thrones. But instead, he was out here listening to us talk about a range of issues. So I encourage you all to support my amendment, to reinsert the previous 5 and renumber everything subsequently, or put it at the end to make everyone's life easier, to make the staff's life easier so we need to renumber. But I think it's an important motion. I think it's an important amendment because I think it lets our community know that we value their time, we value their engagement, and we want to make it as easy as possible to see council happen. And we do that by dealing with the issues that members of the public care about first.
Thank you, Councillor Tick.
I'm happy to second that amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
I'm happy to second that amendment.
Well, Councillor Well, are we going to talk to the member or you're going to accept the Councillor Borg? Yeah.
I'm happy to speak about the reasons that it's been recommended for
You'll
removal.
speak against, so you're not accepting the amendment posed by Councillor Tang.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you can put your amendment, and there's a seconder there. Okay, so it's an amendment, and second, it's an amendment put by Councillor Tegg, seconded by Councillor Elmere. So we'll now talk to.
Sorry, just for sake of ease, I'll just have the previous 5 inserted as the new 13, just so they don't need to renumber everything.
Okay. Now, does anybody want to speak against the amendment? Councillor Borg, yeah. Councillor Lansbury.
Do you want to go first? Okay. Yes, I completely understand where Councillor Tegg is coming from with regards to people waiting in the public gallery, and I appreciate the people who've stayed on here tonight. I think the reason that the recommendation has been removed is that there were 14 items on the business paper tonight, which means that the order of business would be jumping around quite substantially based on 14 different items being addressed in the public gallery, which makes it difficult to follow the order of business, and it means, I think, for the staff, they have to make very last minute changes to a run sheet amendment. Noting that there is always the option to move a procedural motion on the night to bring items of business forward if councillors deem that necessary. So that is the rationale for removing that item, to try to, I guess, stick to an order that is published in advance of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Someone that wants to support the amendment. Are you supporting the amendment? Or
I just had a question.
Okay.
So I should stand up. I just wanted to check with Councillor Borg that I just wanted to reiterate that we still have that power. It's just not forced. Is that what you're saying? So that we still have that option.
As I understand it, councillors have the discretion to move a procedural motion to bring in items forward, but it isn't a standard automatic order of business that would occur automatically each meeting, if that's correct.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Could we have a clarification on that? That's correct. Okay. Well, Councillor Borg is saying he's correct. So that's against the amendment, for the amendment.
Yes.
But you haven't spoken yet. Councillor Lansbury. No, you haven't spoken. It's all right, Councillor Mayor, please.
Mr. Mayor, going to the point that Councillor Borg just raised, I think what Councillor Tegg is suggesting here, and we used this during the last term of government, halfway through we started adopting it, but let's just consider for a moment there that there was a procedural motion that was moved on the floor during a council evening for public speakers that are addressed, and therefore you need to change the order of business. We have a time, the time by which people make a submission to speak at the public forum is at midday. That gives council officers a good 7 hours before the council meeting starts. I know it may not be enough time sometimes, but it is definitely more time than a procedural motion being brought up at 7:15 p.m. for the order of business to then change, which would then give council staff minutes to change the order of business. So going by which what Councillor Tegg was suggesting, I think it's a very considerate move to have the opportunity for council staff to reorder the business agenda, and then you still need to move procedural motion anyway, but it's a formality. And by that time, at least council staff have had the opportunity to get this up there on the screen, and I think it's a good motion to actually adopt as a means for our council to sit here and make decisions on things that public speakers have already addressed us on, so that they can go home and enjoy their evening. Otherwise, it may take, you got to think about this, like it may take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. If we had the number of agendas that we had on there, we may need to adjourn, come back, wait for it to change. Just consider all these things as you're considering this motion. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Elmer. Does anyone want to speak for the, against the amendment? Councillor Lansbury? Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate the arguments that both Councillor Tegg and Councillor Almir have presented tonight. However, from a personal perspective, when it came to us, I don't know, a couple of years ago, last year, whenever it was, I voted against it at the time. I don't like it. I think the chair has a discretion to bring things forward. Historically, if we had, you know, in the good old days pre-COVID, we had an item on the agenda such as Cars Park Pool, for example, in a full gallery, we have always had the discretion. It's always there within the code of meeting practice anyway to bring an item forward. I understand what Councillor Amir is saying about giving the time, the staff extra time to prepare, but it can be at the discretion of the chair. If we know by midday, 1 p.m. that we've got 6 speakers on 3 different issues, then the chair can be alerted to that, and at their discretion, the mayor's discretion, they can determine to move a procedural motion. Tonight we didn't do it. We probably spent a lot of time arguing about things that may not have been as productive as they might well have been, because, you know, we are now looking at this after 9:30 p.m. I just personally think I would prefer to see the agenda remain as it is. I think it's much easier on the staff. And when I have, from time to time, completely lost track of where we are, we had the unusual circumstance at the last meeting, I think it was, of one of the items that was moved forward in the procedural motion was the first item of the Environment and Planning Committee, of which I'm chair. So I had to pull that out, move that separately, and the Environment and Planning Committee paper was right there as well, which was quite confusing for the mayor. I think it's quite confusing for councillors. It must be, I'm sure it's confusing for those in the gallery and those watching on at home. I just think I've always preferred to follow the agenda. I've never liked skipping backwards and forwards. I do recognise there will be needs for it from time to time, but at the discretion of the chair, I think is a much more appropriate way of doing it. You know, just accidentally at the last Environment Planning Committee, we had, I think, 4 items on the agenda, quite a few speakers on item 2. I didn't even think about moving a procedural motion because I knew we were going to get to it fairly quickly anyway, which we did. I would support just the amendment that Councillor Walks put forward tonight. I absolutely support. I think the discretion is there and we should utilise it when we need to, not just as a matter of course.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. We've had 2 for, 2 against. You could have your right reply, Councillor Tegg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A quick glance around the meeting this evening suggests to me that one person has a printed out copy of the agenda, but she also has a computer in front of her. Changing the agenda, as it's set up here, if we put it in the code of meeting practice that this is what we do, as soon as the staff know who the speakers are and what they're speaking on, they can change the agenda that we see up on the screen and that we see on our computers such that we can simply scroll through from one item to the next. They can take those items out from where they are and move them to the front where we need them. So if we don't do this and we don't give the staff and the code of meeting practice an update so that the agenda will change to match the speakers list, then we will keep making our staff's life difficult. We will keep making our own lives difficult because we have to skip around when items do get brought forward. That this gives the staff 7 hours, which again, with the very capable staff we have, I'm sure is sufficient time to take those items from where they are to where they need to go, so that once the speakers are finished, the next item that sits there on the agenda is the first item that we deal with, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and we just scroll down through our agenda, because everyone here is using a digital copy of the agenda, with one exception, and everyone who can watch at home can follow it on their computers as well, and so that the meeting that we're doing will match the meeting that's in the PDF, that will match the meeting that we're all going through, and will prioritise those issues that our community has told us they care the most about. So that they will be at home, or they will be sitting here in the audience, knowing that they're not going to have to wait till 11:23 at night to find out the fate of the motion that they've come to pour their heart and soul out and tell us about here in this meeting, right? Like I've said before, this is just about making these, and I agree with Councillor Lansbury, these seemingly impenetrable meetings as easy to follow as possible for the people who don't care about procedure. They don't care about the ins and outs of what it is we do here. What they want to see is what we've got to say and how we vote about the issues they care about. And if they're willing to come down here on a Monday night and tell us about them, I think we owe it to them to put their issue at the top of the list and to help our staff to make our meetings run as smoothly as possible, and I think this amendment achieves that.
Thank you, Councillor Teague. I will put it. I will put the amendment. We're actually voting just on the amendment. That's all we're voting on, Councillor.
No, I think you're voting on the whole thing.
You're voting on the whole thing, including the amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
And then, because
Well,
the motion.
I know. I took it as it was an amendment. It was an amendment, and that was only an amendment that we were dealing with. So I would rather keep it that way, because I think it just then confuses it. Because if you vote against the whole thing, then it's gone.
No,
Just to clarify, this amendment of Councillor Teague's is all of the original amendment that I put forward, with the addition of adding in point number 5 back in as point number whatever the final point is. So if we don't agree with the re-addition of that point, we would vote against the amendment and we would go back to the original motion.
That's what I'm saying. Well, voting. Yeah, we're voting. Essentially, we're voting on the amendment. Essentially
on that.
Essentially we're voting on the amendment. If the amendment is lost, we go back to what was there. Okay. All right. Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. No, sorry, no. Actually, why don't we just go around, because we're voting. We're voting on the actual, in essence, the amendment. I'm. You know what mine? Yeah.
We're voting on the motion as amended by Councillor Hall, the addition of 13 that I've just spoken. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And against? I'm against it.
You're not accepting, that's no.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
You
All
don't
right,
accept
shall we go around?
Yeah.
Mr Mayor?
Sorry, yeah.
Against.
Councillor Ball?
Against.
Councillor Elmere?
For.
Councillor Green?
Yeah, I'll support the staff. I'll go for.
Councillor Jamieson?
Against.
Councillor Kanjarski?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
Against.
Councillor Liu?
For, thank you.
Councillor Marnie?
Against.
Councillor Mort?
Against.
Councillor Smerdley?
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos?
For.
Councillor Symington?
Against.
Councillor Tegg?
For the motion.
Councillor Wang?
Against.
8 against, 6 for.
Well, I declare it lost.
Sorry, 7 for. Sorry. 8 against, 7 for.
Yeah, I declare it lost.
And now we go back to.
Now we go back to the Councillor Wolf motion. You're moving it. Councillor Lansbury seconded, and I'll put it. All those in favour say, well, let's go around. Let's go around. Sorry? What do you want to do it there? No, that takes longer. I'm for.
Councillor Ball?
For.
Councillor Elmere?
For.
Councillor Green? Councillor Jamieson? Councillor Kanjarski?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
For.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
For.
Councillor Mort?
For.
Councillor Smerdley? Councillor Stratokopoulos?
For.
Councillor Symington? Councillor Tegg?
For the motion.
Sorry?
For.
Councillor Wang?
For.
15 for, unanimous.
Thank you. I declare it carried unanimously. And now we'll go to the amendment of the to the council committee and meeting schedules of 2022-2023.
I move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Green. I'll actually put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Councillor Symington, Councillor Colleen Symington, Coercive Control Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move my motion as read.
Seconder.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Jamieson.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a recap about coercive control for the councillors that weren't on the last term of council. Coercive control is used to describe the pattern of abusive treatment of predominantly women by an intimate partner. It's insidious and designed to strip someone of their sense of autonomy and self-worth. The treatment is used to intimidate, punish, belittle, frighten, and ultimately gain control of the victim. Counsellor's coercive control has been recognised as the strongest indicator of potential homicide by an intimate partner. And often the first act of violence is actually the act of violence that results in death. So it's just all the control beforehand, and then, you know, like Hannah Clark, it's just boom, you're up in smoke. The cumulative pattern of psychological, spiritual, financial and sexual abuse is abhorrent. The New South Wales Joint Select Committee on Coercive Control, which was established in October 2020, said that coercive control should be made a crime to stop the silent and hidden deathly pandemic of domestic terrorism. Its recommendations are published in June 2021. The government has now released a public draft exposure bill. That's great news. It's the Crimes Legislation Amendment Coercive Control Bill 2022. And the attorney in Parliament acknowledged the contribution of Anna Watson MP, the opposition whip and member for Shellharbour, for previously introducing a private member's bill to criminalise coercive control, as she recognised the urgency for legislation. Of course, it wasn't supported because that doesn't normally happen when you're in opposition. But consultation is critical to ensure that the proposed legislation is not overreaching. That's really important, and doesn't actually end up engaging the people that it's intended to protect. The New South Wales attorney has informed Parliament that this fourth round of consultation will invite members of the public to comment. Plus, it will also involve 10 targeted roundtables with specialist stakeholders. It is proposed that there will also be a statutory definition of domestic abuse. Currently in New South Wales, we don't have one. And the maximum penalty in the legislation will be 7 years. It's expected that the legislation will be introduced in the spring session, but once legislated, there'll be a long lead time to educate both the judiciary and the police. And that's what happened in Scotland. And that's really, really important so the legislation is successful. And they're expecting that this lead time will take about 12 months. But ultimately, this legislation is going to save lives. And now there's even talk that coercive control will be criminalised nationally. And we've come a long, long way since 2020. I'm very proud that Georges River Council has been at the forefront of raising awareness of coercive control. We developed the pocket guide to coercive control, easily fit in your palm of a hand, so you can hide it. The partner doesn't know that you have it. We've also established a safe room in our LGA, and we've lobbied the New South Wales government to implement the coercive control legislation. Safety is paramount for our community, and everyone deserves to feel safe. I'm also pleased that the No Domestic Violence Walk is going to be reinstated after the COVID hiatus. This will again raise awareness, and it's vital that we involve our youth in these events because they have an important role to play in breaking the intergenerational cycle of domestic violence. I say that because I remember after we had the walk a couple of years ago, I had an adult say to me, "Oh, there was a lot of school children there." Well, a lot of school children. Well, because that's where it often starts. You've got to raise the awareness with them, so the cycle of violence stops. It's really important to have young children there. I want to remind everyone that it's all our responsibility to call out domestic violence. Stand up and say it's unacceptable. Wearing an insignia, going on a walk or donating does not absolve us from that responsibility. And I've always believed that we can prevent incidents of domestic abuse. And I continue to believe that with the appropriate legislation in tandem with education of the judiciary and the police, along with substantial investment in school programs to break the cycle of intergenerational abuse. This can happen, and it's starting to happen now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Councillor Jamieson, did you want to add anything to that? No? Okay. Is anyone against this motion? No? Then I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declared it carried unanimously. And now we've got Councillor Kevin Green on the congratulations to the director.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, the motion that I'll put is only the first line of that, actually. So I won't read the motion, and I certainly won't read all the background information that goes with it. In fact, in speaking to this motion, as I say, I won't go through that enormous list, which I was just checking that I think goes for 8 pages, and that gives a very clear indication of the enormous amount of work that our staff have done on behalf of our community, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years. That's been a huge undertaking and commitment by them, and we can be very proud not of our efforts but of their efforts. And I just think it's important for us to highlight, and that's why I was keen for all those initiatives to be so clearly placed and put on the agenda so everyone can see the great success. Quite often, as people go about the business of doing business, they don't take time to reflect on successes that have been achieved. And our staff have achieved, as we can see there, an enormous amount, as I say, for our community. Most importantly, if you look through that very, very, very long and comprehensive list, and there's no doubt that it's not necessarily fully inclusive, because there's some things I'm sure that have been forgotten to be placed on that list. But when you look through it, you'll see that it covers the full spectrum of all the directorates within council. And that just goes to show you how inclusive the work of our council staff and the directors has been over that period of time in producing results. I might also say there's even great successes there that were achieved in Director Weatherly's former department, of city strategy and innovation. And I think it's important to recognise those as well, because, to say, there's been a lot of effort put in, and I congratulate our staff. And just in conclusion, everyone loves it when I use that term, but in conclusion, we need to recognise that an enormous amount of that work was achieved in a background of 2 years of COVID, when staff, in many occasions, were unable to access this building because of the public health orders and the restrictions that were in place. It's also become clearly evident through the work of a statutory authority that our staff were working, in some cases, hindered by the actions of others. But they still managed to achieve this wonderful success. And I think it's important to highlight, as I say, even with those encumbrances, our directors and our staff have achieved so much. And in conclusion, I think it's most appropriate to particularly recognise, as I say, our directors, the acting general manager, all our senior leaders, but we should not in any way forget the enormous commitment, the dedication and the leadership that was shown by our former general manager, who had the auspices of this council for the great majority of that period of time. And I'd certainly take this opportunity tonight to recognise that dedication, that commitment and that achievement. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Konjowski, you seconded it. Did you want to say anything? Yeah, it's enough, is it? Okay. All right. Is anybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just following on from Councillor Green's comments, just like to congratulate the staff on a very recent achievement relating to the planning proposal at Rocky Point Road, Ramsgate Road and Targo Road last week. This planning proposal was considered and determined by the South Sydney planning proposal last week. And I'd just like to thank the council strategic planning staff who presented a very comprehensive submission on behalf of the council and the community. And the presentation by the staff helped inform the panel on the concerns that were raised by the staff and resulted in a refusal of the planning proposal that was going to have serious impacts on both the traffic and the neighbouring properties. So I just wanted to call that one out as listed in the items there and thank the staff.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Does anybody else want to talk to the motion? Okay, I'll put all that. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. We're now going to Councillor Konjowski. You have your congratulations to the St George City Football Association.
I'll second.
Moved by Councillor Konjowski, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor Konjowski, would you like to talk to your motion?
Thank you. Yes. I just wanted to firstly pull Steve Matthews up on a couple of points. One was that he said the season was disrupted in 2020 and 2011. In fact, it was 2020 and 2021. And then he said that St George City FA was a rugby league club. It's in fact a soccer club. So he was very excited. But I just want to congratulate St George City FA on a fantastic effort. A club that was only formed 6 years ago, 2016, and the meteoric rise from just being formed from oblivion to now being promoted to NPL1 football is just amazing. I've done a little bit of research, primarily Googling around, and I could not find any club under any code that has risen to such success in such a short period of time. There was a couple of other things that I wanted to say. Oh, yes, that's right. On the weekend, yesterday, in fact, St George City won their game against Central Coast up at Plume Park in Lisaro. They, in fact, conceded a goal in the 90th odd minute. It was 0-0. They conceded a goal in the 90th odd minute. Came back about 1 or 2 minutes later, evened up, went into extra time, and then St George City ended up winning in the 117th minute. So they are now through to the grand final, and then next week they have a week off next week, and the following week the grand final will be played against St George City and the winners of next week's game. There was one other thing. Doesn't matter, I can't remember. But good luck to St George City in their grand final in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm sure that all the council are behind St George City and wishing them good fortune in a fortnight.
Thank you, Councillor Konjowski. Councillor Green, did you want to say anything about this?
It's all been said.
It's all been said. Anybody else? Anyone who wants to speak against it? Okay, well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Now we're going to traffic and pedestrian safety, Matadee Catholic Primary School, Blakehurst. Councillor Moore.
Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Lansbury.
Yeah, Councillor Lansbury. Seconded. Yeah, so I just wanted to say, Mayor, fellow councillors, I'd like you to give some support to me tonight for this motion. I sincerely hope you agree. It is extremely important. This motion, it is attempting to address a major safety issue for the children of Mater Dei School at Blakehurst. A review of the current traffic and pedestrian movements around the school is urgently needed to see what can be done to make it a safer environment for all. Unfortunately, the key issue for this particular school, unlike most others in our LGA, is that it is located in between two major arterial roads, King George's Road, the Princes Highway, and the other busy street which links these two being Terry Street. As a result, at the busy school drop-off and pick-up times, there are clear ways in action, and parents are faced with the absolute nightmare trying to navigate the challenge of coordinating a safe and somewhat orderly drop-off pick-up while not getting booked by the police or blocking a clear way or intersection. Get their children safely to school gate while being confronted by the general abuse of other drivers trying to go about their general business. Decades ago, when the school was established, clearly this wasn't such an issue, but we are all aware of the major traffic issues over recent times, and this school is now getting squeezed right into the middle of it. On top of this, to make the issue even greater, in 2017, a new childcare centre was approved by the then administrator of the council, to be located next door to Mater Day School in Heath Road. This centre will have approximately 118 available places, adding to more congestion. And while the school itself has a comprehensive parent and student traffic management plan, it simply cannot cope without serious intervention to assist them. They are seeking our urgent assistance. Something has to be done. Councillors, in conclusion, I know I don't need to tell you of the continuing and ever-growing challenges we face in our LGA with traffic and pedestrian management. You're all more than aware of it throughout every ward represented here. But as I said, this school in particular finds itself in 2022 in a very dangerous location. I ask that you please consider this motion tonight, as it is vital and urgent. It is of vital and urgent importance for the safety of the children of this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Lansbury, did you want to say a few words on this?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will speak to this one. First, I wanted to thank Councillor Mort for bringing this to Council. This is something that many of us, again, have worked on over the years. I've moved a couple of motions, I think, on this term of council, the last term of council in the days of Cobra. We had the former traffic engineer down there trying to come to some sort of solution. It's a really difficult location. It's a conflict of use of an educational area plus residential plus industrial. And you've got, as Councillor Mort said, you've got the highway on one end, you've got Cherry Street at the other end. It's an incredibly busy location at drop-off and pick-up time. There's been an issue of cars queuing in the no-stopping zone around on the highway into the pick-up zone in the afternoon to pick up their kids. It's one of those wicked problems that nobody's been able to resolve at this point in time. So I'm hoping that this motion can progress it and move it forward. However, I will say, and risk the wrath of some of the parents, that parents do also need to exercise some accountability here too. I have no sympathy for somebody stopping in a no-stopping zone outside a school zone when they get booked, even if they are just there for a minute, because we can't all think like that. We all have to obey the rules, particularly in school zones. It's so much more important that we extra careful. You know, our speed limit is always reduced to the 40k zone around schools, but unfortunately people often forget. And it's, you know, it's been a while since my kids were at school, but you know, I went through the same thing. It's a nightmare. People seem to forget their manners and their road rules and their road sense often around schools, and that's when we need to be heightened with our awareness of safety. I think the school has been exemplary in their traffic management plans. They've got quite a comprehensive plan, but from my perspective, it often gets back to driver responsibility and thinking outside the square. I know the last time I brought this to council, we suggested that they introduce staggered drop-off and pick-up times. I don't know if that was, well, I think it was trial, but it wasn't maintained. It's successful in other schools. I'd like the school to maybe reconsider introducing that again. I know that can cause some tension if you've got more than one child at the school in different grades, but ultimately it's a really tight location that I'm not quite sure what traffic measures can be implemented, but I'm hoping that the experts can come up with something to improve this location. It's not just Mater Day, but this is the one that has been brought to Councillor Mort on several occasions by some of the local parents there, and we need to resolve it before there is a serious accident, a child is injured or worse, and hopefully this will instigate more work on it and we can come to some sort of resolution and help the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Amir.
If I'm allowed, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak in favour as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'll get up to speak in favour of this motion and congratulate Councillor Mort on bringing this forward to Council, and also acknowledging points that Councillor Lansbury made earlier about this coming up quite a number of times. I remember last term of Council, we spoke about this on numerous occasions, but one thing I just wanted to sort of remind, I guess, council's traffic engineers or council's staff about. I also moved a motion surrounding this, and I'm glad to see that in the motion it talks about traffic and pedestrian safety surrounding Mater Dei Catholic Primary School in Blakehurst, because the motion that I brought up, I believe it was in 2020 or late 2020, was also looking at Linwood Street just off Joseph Street, which is really across the road from the highway, but it is a very important pick-up and drop-off zone for parents that drop their kids off at Mater Dei. So it's not just around Heath Road, but it also goes into the other side of Princess Highway. And one of the issues, given that I'm a resident of Blakehurst and I sort of travel through there sometimes during school hours, you do find that as you turn right into Phillip Street, that what happens is there is a right turn into Linwood Street straight away, and there's often kids just running across the road. It's quite dangerous, but if council officers and council traffic engineers can look at that again and incorporate that in their study, I think that's it's important as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. If there's no more discussion, I'll put it. I don't believe there's any one wants to talk against it. So I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried unanimously, and we'll go on to the Beverly Hills commuter car park. Councillor Symington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're moving that, and a
I'm
second.
moving it as read. Councillors.
Seconded by Councillor O'Neill.
Okay, councillors, the response that we received from Transport for New South Wales on the 4th of August was extremely pleasing. I must admit I had little faith that Transport for New South Wales would listen to Georges River Council and allow access to the proposed 200 space commuter car park. Their track record of listening to the community is not an enviable one. However, I'm proven wrong. I'm glad to be. This will support the Beverly Hills local businesses and in turn contribute to the night economy. The winners are Beverly Hills shopkeepers and residents. Because combined with the loss of the Clearway parking of 62 spaces and then the 107 spaces in Edgbaston car park, there would be 169 parking spaces in deficit, and the Beverly Hills shopping precinct I could see would become a ghost town. So it was definitely necessary. I think it's important that we write to the Transport Minister and express our appreciation for this very good decision. Credit where credit's due. However, I'm a firm believer that the devil is in the detail. I want to ensure that the fee structure is fair and equitable for non-commuter users, and I want to know what the precise hours of usage will be allowed during evenings and weekends to support the local economy. At the February resolution, we requested 6 p.m. to midnight on weekdays and 9 a.m. to midnight on weekends. So they must have some idea of what the fees and hours will be, and I don't think it's unreasonable for Georges River Council to know those plans. So input can be provided because we are advocating for the livelihood of the local business community. Transport for New South Wales also need to recognise that the words you may be assured, which they say in their correspondence, it doesn't carry much weight anymore, as there have been many instances where communities have been skewered by left field decisions. So, council, I hope you support my motion that we get some more information sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Does anyone who's Councillor Wayne?
Yeah, so can I just speak in favour of the motion as well, because this Beverly Hill car park issue has been going on for a long time. It's very, very contentious, and which is I'd like to congratulate Councillor Symington for put up a great effort over a long period of time, and we are reaping good result almost there. So yeah, so but the whole Beverly Hill is part of the related to Beverly Hill master plan, I have to say. So let's carry on with the good work. And yeah, I also ask the fellow councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. I don't believe anyone's going to be talking against it. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried unanimously. Review of parking permits costs by Councillor Ball.
I'll move the motion.
Councillor Bob is moving it, and we have a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Mahoney. Did you want to talk to it, Councillor Bob?
Yes, please, if I could. Firstly, I would like to thank our speakers in the public forum tonight and acknowledge that we have Anna still here to listen to the debate tonight. So thank you for hanging around. So I'd like to thank the speakers in the public forum who brought the issue to my attention, and have also explained the impact to residents living in one of the 7 authorised parking permit areas of the local government area. Councillors, as we know, when we adopt the budget, there are many different elements to be considered. And one of those elements is the fees and charges for all sorts of council charges, from the cost to enter a leisure centre, submit a DA, or to apply for a parking permit. And sometimes it is only after something goes through that we become aware of the impact of that decision, as is the case with the increase in the cost adopted for the 2022-23 financial year that saw a 250% cost increase in resident parking permits and 416% cost increase in the cost of visitor parking permits. These are substantial increases, and what I've learnt since investigating the issue raised by the residents living in one of these 7 authorised parking permit areas is that 6 of the 7 parking permit areas are all located in the Cogra Bay ward. So councillors, I've put forward this motion because I think councillors have erred by adopting such a substantial increase in cost on these parking permits, a cost increase that will be borne by the residents of just one ward of the LGA. I appreciate the difficult job the council has in finding the $4 million in savings that we need to find, and the budget strategy of more user pay models across various services. However, I do not believe that we should be trying to find those savings by charging people 250% more to park out the front of their homes. The residents that have approached me live in the streets surrounding the St George Hospital precinct, and their situation is unique when compared to the other parking permit precincts, which are all mainly, the other areas are mainly to deter commuter parking all day for people wanting to catch the train. The precinct around St George Hospital is different. The parking is constantly at a premium with people coming and going. Residents and their visitors, as we've heard tonight, are lucky to even get a parking spot anywhere near their homes. The residents have given me feedback that in those streets that are closer to St George Hospital, the rangers are monitoring these streets pretty much every 2.5 hours during the weekdays. So if you're going to go over your 2-hour limit, you're pretty much guaranteed to get booked. And having kids that go to school in that area, I know that's the case. So there's a real genuine need for these residents and their visitors to have affordable parking permits. And that is why in this motion, I'm calling a review of the parking permit fee structure, which will include an option to keep the resident and visitor 1 parking permit increases to a minimum, and instead look to implement a tiered fee structure so that the visitor 2 parking permits, because some people might get two visitor permits, so one they may choose to get 2. So I'm suggesting that this resident parking and visitor 1 are kept to a minimum, and instead look to implement a tiered fee structure so that the visitor 2 parking permits, of which I understand there's some concern about the misuse of those, are higher in cost to subsidise the resident and visitor 1 permits. And so, councillors, I hope you can support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gore. Councillor Money, did you want to say anything? Councillor Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to speak in favour of this motion. Obviously, it's we as we all do, we all try and keep the cost of running council to a minimum, but we all accept that what we do here, including paying staff and keeping roads fixed, takes a lot of money. And it, as we know, as we've just been through the budget process just 2 months ago now, you know, these are decisions that are hard to make. As Councillor Borg points out, she voted for the motion to increase these fees, just like we all did at the end of the day, voted for this motion to increase these fees. These are, and as the officers report on this motion points out, these fees, while it is a large increase, are in line with those that are paid in nearby councils. We are already, according to our officers, pretty consistent with the areas around us. So I think it is a good thing that we are reviewing these things, but at the end of the day, we do need to be charging a reasonable rate for the user charges that we have here. While this area may well be different for the reason that these permits are required. At the end of the day, what we are doing here is trying to make it easier for residents to park in a place where lots of other people want to park all the time, whether that's for commuting or whether that's for the tertiary hospital. All those reasons are the same. So just in conclusion, thank you very much for sticking around. 3 hours and 12 minutes of your time have now been spent. It is unfortunate Councillor Borg thinks that this is the best use of your time rather than having dealt with this issue earlier on this evening. But thank you very much nonetheless.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Teague. Does anybody have anything else to say on this motion? Okay. Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare carried unanimously, and we're now going to a notice of motion. Oh, did you? Are you gambling? Sorry. Thank you. Oh, okay, fair enough. It's on the board of the club. Okay, addressing problem gambling within the Georges River Council local government area. It's Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're moving it, seconder. Seconder, Councillor Smerdley.
Thank you. First, I'd like to submit an amendment to the motion, which the staff have in hand. The change is to delete, quote, in collaboration with state government agencies and not-for-profit organisations, unquote, and replace that with in collaboration with state government agencies and Wesley Mission. This is due to the fact that Wesley Mission is a pioneer in this field, and because it produced the data I have referenced, and because it is willing to work with councils to minimise the risk posed by gambling. Some background. I was concerned to discover that through a Sydney Morning Herald article dated 4th of August that over the past 30 years, New South Wales gamblers have lost a total of $135 billion through poker machines. It was disturbing to find in the same article that gamblers lost 190 million through poker machines just in the George River LGA in 2021, making that area the 7th highest in New South Wales. I thank Ms Dodd, the Acting Director for Community and Culture, who suggested that I broaden the agenda item to address problem gambling generally and not just poker machines, and who helped me with the drafting of this motion. I also acknowledge Wesley Mission, which provided the research referred to and which continues to do extremely valuable work in this field. Very few councils offer education programs on gambling, so I therefore seek your support so that our council can help lead the way forward on this serious social issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Councillor Smith, did you want to say?
Yeah, I think this is a real big issue in our local government area, and based on what Councillor Money just stipulated, almost $200 million lost in 2021 in gambling, and for most of the year we're in lockdown. So that says a lot. Now I think, and I don't know, I think a lot of us have had personal experiences with people that we know, close ones to us, where they've had issues with gambling, and it actually brings you down as well, because you have to help them and mitigate them into not doing something silly or borrowing money off a family friend and not paying for whatever it may be. And to me, I think this needs to be addressed sooner rather than later in our LJ in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smerdley. Did anybody else want to make any comments? Question? Yeah.
Does anyone have the statistics on gambling in our local personal area, like the pubs and stuff?
I'm happy to answer that, Councillor Smith.
As I said with Peter earlier, there's a leader article that came out in June, which talked about the profit of clubs and hotels in LGA. In the latest statistic that came out in the between June 2021 and December 21, this is the latest statistic that's come out publicly, is that $24 million was made by clubs in profit from poker machines, and hotels was 23.8 million in profit.
In our local government machines.
What period? The 6 month period between June and December in 2021.
50 million. Thank you, Councillor Smithy. Councillor Jemison, yeah.
I just really feel that I think Councillor Marnie and Councillor Smithy, I think that's a great initiative, and I really congratulate you doing something on doing something so proactive for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Jemison. No further discussion. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now, councillors, is the which way? Oh, the Chinese, yes, of course. Councillor Luke, you've got the I think the final matter on congratulations on the
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Chinese Museum.
Yeah. Can I would like to
Moved
move
by
it?
Councillor Wu, seconded by Councillor Mia. I'll by
Thank
all
you.
means.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the very beginning of the council meeting, start from 7 o'clock at the public forum period time. We know that three people representing different roles in the community, they came to speak to us. The first is one of the artists who was working with council to deliver one of our very positive exhibition, very recent exhibition called Our Journeys, Our Stories. Mr. Guan Wei, he's one of the speakers tonight, and someone is representing MOCA, which is the Museum of Chinese in Australia. Short name is MOCA. The lady representing this organization, and the third one is our local community member who is has been living in Lugano for years. So those speeches reflect all of those 3 points which been contained in my motions. So firstly, the council congratulate the Museum of MOCA for being awarded. In here, the number, I wanted to make a correction. I think that's a typo. The grants amount of the grants is 2.28 rather than 2.8. Can we make a little bit correction for that? From the New South Wales government to refurbish the museum. A little bit background about that. That's on the 31st of July, which is Sunday. There was an official event. The Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, of the Arts and Regional Youth, Ben Franklin, and Minister for Seniors and Multiculturalism, Mark Curry, announced on behalf of New South Wales Government the rewarding of funding 2.28 million to MOCA for the refurbishment of 744 George Street. This amount equals to half of the funding they require to this task. So really brings them one step closer to opening the doors of 744 George Street in early 2023, which is such a great news, not only to the people with Chinese heritage. I think that's a good news to all Australians in New South Wales. And the second point in my motion is just that council continue to foster a positive working relationship with MOCA. During that, I just mentioned our recent exhibition, Our Journeys and Our Stories. To talk about this exhibition, in particular, I wanted to appreciate our director, Christy Dodd, and manager, Thomas Cruz, for their wonderful job to put everything together in front of us and in front of the community, not only for the Chinese heritage, I think with all our broad community in our Georges River area. So this exhibition, we remember Mr. Mayor was at the opening on the 30th of April. It ends on the 24th of July. Within these couple of weeks, it has been attracting over 1,286 visitors and a further 128 visits experience the exhibition through the virtual tour, which is a great number. So that's why I wanted to see this is only the start for our cultural program to to attract more focus from the local community in the future. So that's why I wanted to say that council continue to develop and support events and programs and collections within council's libraries that highlight diverse migration stories, not only from the Chinese migration. I think it's from the broader community and contemporary stories from the local community in our Georges River LGA. Thank you so much for supporting my motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Did anybody want to make just add to that?
I think Councillor moved an amendment to change 2.28 to 2.8 in the motion in section.
Yeah. 2.8 to 2.28. Councillor, you did make an amendment.
Oh, it's been
Yes.
fixed up.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been fixed. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Councillors, that was the last item in the public agenda. We're now going to go into confidential. But before we go into confidential, I need to quote this. Council's Code of Meeting Practice allows members of the public, they might be on the, I know that there's nobody out there in the gallery, but they might be still watching. Allows members of the public present to indicate whether they wish to make representations to the meeting before it is closed to the public as to whether that part of the meeting dealing with any or all of the matters listed should or should not be considered in closed session. I presume that there's nothing to discuss there. Okay, so we now at this point the meeting will move into committee of the whole, and the recommendation that in accordance with the provision of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the following matters be considered in closed meeting at which the press and public are excluded. The first item is hire agreement, Netstrata Jubilee Stadium. That's a report by Manager of Premium Facilities that in accordance with the provision of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matters dealt with in this report be considered closed council meeting in a closed committee at which the press and the public are excluded in accordance with section 10A brackets 2D brackets 3. It is considered the matter contains commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, reveal a trade secret, that in accordance with section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in an open council meeting, it would on balance be contrary to the public interest and as it contains commercial information of confidential nature that would be disclosed, would if disclosed reveal a trade secret. Should I do the next one? I might as well do the next one too. Code of Conduct. The next one is the Code of Conduct investigation report with regards to Councillor Konjowski, that in accordance with the provision of Part 1 of Chapter 4 of the Local Government Act of 1993, the matter dealt with in this report be considered in closed council meeting at which the press and public are excluded in accordance with section 10A brackets 2 brackets 1. It is considered the matter alleged contravention to any code of conduct requirements applicable under section 440 of the Local Government Act 1993, that in accordance with section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in an open council meeting, it would on balance be contrary to the public interest as it alleged contravention of the Code of Conduct requirements applicable under section 440 of the Local Government, that in accordance with the provision of section 11.2 of the Act, the reports and correspondence relating to these matters be withheld from press and public. A mover. Sorry? You've got them? Yeah, I'm doing a mover and second.
I'll move.
Councillor Green. and councillor Teague. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I think. Thank you. Councillor Green and Councillor Teague. We're going to go into confidential. Okay, so the first item was, where are we? The first item was the hire agreement net strata. I think it was moved by, who was it moved by? No, we have to move what we've got here, Warren. And who, can we have someone move it? Because I can't recall who moved it. Sorry? There's nothing there.
Nothing there.
No, there's nothing there. Who moved it and who seconded it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Councillor Green, Councillor Teague. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. And the other one is Councillor Teague and Councillor Symington. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Thank you. I declare them both carried. Good night, everyone.